What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is a story where Issei had a massive Yandere Harem. They say to be careful what you wish for because it just might come true. Issei Hyoudou, someone who dreams of being the king of his harem by being strong and noble, can achieve his dream at the expense of a horde of single women who will unleash chaos for his love. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Also, this is a translate version, you may find some mistakes, specifically in the character's gender. Issei of course is a male, this time, no changes in the genders. Welp, with that out, let's get into the story. At Gremory Castle. To be exact, Ria's Gremory's room. The typical sleepover was taking place between the Gremory girls and the Citri girls, except for Tsubaki and Momo. Some of the Phoenix girls, other supernatural girls, and humans who were familiar with this world. But now I'll leave the narration to a redeed beloved by many but hated by others. Ria's Pav. Wow, after all the chaos caused by Rizelvam and the Cows Brigade, now we have a few moments of peace and quiet. Invite several of my comrades and friends to a sleepover where we would take advantage and talk about things, especially gossip about our other friends who already have boyfriends. Just mentioning it makes me feel bad because, unfortunately, my heart belongs to a certain dragon who has just been promoted to ultimate class demon, all because he was the cause of the destruction of Trahixa and prevented my brother and other leaders from being sealed to stop this threat. In itself, when I freed myself from the arranged engagement against Razor Phoenix, he stole my heart. Every day I fell more in love with my cute pawn. His name of such daring. Issei Hyoudou, the current Sekiruyute. My brother tried to compromise him with me by any method, but Issei always gave him the same answer, to deny such a commitment. Something that both he and the other leaders of the alliance accepted and respected his decision. Even the leader of the Yokai Yasaka tried to compromise with Issei, but it was the same result. My entourage and my Issei's entourage had confessed to me that they were also madly in love with Issei. They had tried to win him over in one way or another, but failed to do so. We are all desperate. But, keep this in mind. I have not given up on winning over my pretty Issei. Scene change. The supernatural sleepover had started at 7 p.m. The maids and butlers had prepared Ria's room in such a way that all the guests could fit and had a place to sleep. Among all of them, they would start the classic beauty sessions where some would put on makeup, some would do it wonderfully, others would go so far that they would end up like badly made up geishas, then others would start doing their hair, and others would experiment with the rest. Then they watched romantic movies that made the girls sigh at the gentlemanly touches, until Jack, he died so I could let Rose live. Asia said sighing. There are no gentlemen like him anymore, said Irina. How I wish to have a night like that, said LaFay. Someone to make me fall in love, said the magician thinking about Issei. Well, said Sona. I am not the one to ask these kinds of questions, I ask you confidentially as friends and comrades, do you have someone that you have fallen in love with? That question shocked those present, leaving them with a face, what the? With all due respect Sona-sama, said Carloman. Why are you asking us that? Out of curiosity, said Sona. Well, I do, said Ria's thinking about a certain dragon god. Well, in my case, I know one who is, said Ryakusaka sighing. I know him too. He has the bearing of a real dandy, said Yuri Tsubasa eating popcorn. Besides, he is powerful and very attractive, said Zenobia eating strawberry ice cream. He doesn't see women as a piece of meat, said Roswis. He is someone quite humble, said Kaneko eating chocolate. He puts his life in danger so that his people come out well, said Kuroka eating a salty fried food. And above all, really cute, said Gabriel, taking a strawberry lollipop out of her mouth. Hey. Gabriel-sama, Penemu-sama and Serafal-sama. No offense, but aren't you too big to attend a sleepover? Said Ingvald. Are you calling us old women? Said the three pointed at by the girl. Just tell me, when was the last time you did this kind of activities? Said Elmenhold Karlstein. The three of them were left thinking. I think it was when Penemu still had her white wings, said Gabriel looking at his ex-sister with a purple aura. I have been since more than 400 years, said Serafal in the same way as the Seraphim. They are already old enough to do that, said in their minds, all the others knowing more or less the age of the three aforementioned. But, we are enjoying our eternal youth, said Serafal trying to defend herself just like Gabriel and Penemu. Why didn't you go with the Oka-sama, Grafia-sama and the others? Said Kunu wearing a kitten pajamas. They too are having a singles night gathering. Kunu-san, do you have someone you like? Serafal said nervously trying to change the subject. I do, said the little kitsune blushing. In fact he is my hero. Besides being a little perverted, he has a heart of gold, said Ravel putting her hands on her heart. We also like someone because he is not interested in power. He only wants peace and happiness around him," said Razor Isabella's tower. "Ara," said Akeno very happily. "When I met him, I thought I could corrupt him and play with him, but he showed me that he is a person I could trust and love. I also love someone very much. Even though when I met him, we started off on the wrong foot. As I got to know him, he turned out to be a true man in whom I can completely trust," said Murayama. "I like someone too," said a voice in which a dimensional gap opens, revealing a lowly also wearing pajamas, carrying a pillow under one arm and a teddy bear in the other, without leaving aside her gothic headband and her expressionless face. "Office," said the guests at the sleepover. The other girls who didn't say anything nodded because they had in mind someone they always liked. "Okay. I know, let's say the name of the person we like out loud on the count of 3. Said Riser's pawn. "Look." To which the other girls nodded. 3, 2, 1. "Issei Hyoudou." They shouted oaths in unison. At that point a hostile atmosphere began to arise. "So you like my Issei," Ria said smiling but with a twitch in her eye. Ara. What a coincidence," said Akeno with a falsely sweet smile. "Any problem?" "Ria's Gremory," said Ravel. The others said nothing but a demonic aura took over the castle. What if we watch TV instead?" said Caddis, showing a remote control to ease the tension. They all agreed and decided to turn on the television, showing a program called Super Interviews with Albeldo. But at the same time, Phoenix Castle. As Kunu had revealed, a gathering of single, divorced and widowed women, Yasaka's case, was taking place, where they had also watched a lot of movies, drank tea, ate cookies and in Yasaka's case, drank sake. The gathering was made up of Grafia Lucifuge, Benalana Bale, Dana Phoenix, Yasaka, Griselda Quarta, Kateria Leviathan, Himejima Suzaku, Tiamat and Roygun Belfelger. And they were also throwing the tasty gossip like in any women's gathering. "So Marana said yes to Dulio," said Dana Phoenix, to which Griselda Quarta nodded. "Well, it was about time. So many hints your partner was giving to the absent-minded Dulio," said Venelana taking a sip of tea. "Dana, as always, your sweet apple tea is exquisite." "Thank you," said the former matriarch of Phoenix. "Hey, here among us, is there anyone you like and why?" "Because yes," said the blonde, blushing a lot. "Well, there's only one person I really liked after my divorce with Surziches," Grafia said coldly, but there was a slight blush on her face. "Likewise. He stole my heart after my divorce with Zeoticus," said Venelana smiling. "Me too," said Yusaka a little drunk, raising her sake bottle. "I like him so much. Hick, that every time I see him, I want to mate with him every day. Hick. Me too. That boy spared my life at a crucial moment in the war," said Kateria Leviathan. "Me too," said Griselda Quarta. "Thanks to him and his enormous heart, not only did he transform my world, but Zenobia has also become a very exemplary woman as a person and at school." "Well, me. Same," said Roygun, eating a walnut cookie. "He awakened that fetish in me to go out with young men. Well, thanks to him, I made peace with Drake," said Tiamat, blushing a lot. "And I was about to have sex with him, but he disappeared. To me, for the great person he is," said Suzaku. "He does things without asking for anything in return. That shows. What if we say who the boy we like is?" said Dana, to which everyone nodded. 3, 2, 1. "Hyoudou Issei," shouted the ladies of the underworld. This revelation shocked the meeting. "Do you like my Issei?" they said at the same time. "He is my Issei," they all said, looking at each other, wanting to kill each other. Ladies," said a butler, but then the ladies looked at the butler, wanting to kill him, making him nervous. "There's a television program where they'll talk about his love interest on the Star Channel," said the butler, giving him a remote control. "With your permission," shouted the butler as he ran for his life. "They'll talk about Issei," said Kateria, grabbing the remote control. "He said Star Channel," Roygun said. Kateria turned on the television when she watched the program Super Interviews with Albeldo. The sleepover and the reunion are shown at the same time. The camera focuses on a raven-haired woman with white horns, a sharp gaze with yellow pupils, and whitish creamy skin, wearing formal work attire that was tied on her body. "Hello everyone. I'm Albeldo and today we will interview the mother of one of our heroes who saved us. Today we will interview Miki Hyoudou, mother of Issei Hyoudou, the most powerful Sekiryuite of all time," said Albeldo. "Hello Miki, nice to meet you." "The pleasure is mine, Albeldo-san," said Miki, smiling. At the meeting and the sleepover, "My mother-in-law," they all screamed in their minds. Back on the program. "Tell me Miki-san, why didn't Issei-sama want to be interviewed?" Albeldo said, intrigued. "Well, he had to attend to certain matters urgently," said Miki. "Both personal and academic. And tell me Mickey-san, I'll tell you a very personal question, said Albedo smiling. Does your son have a girlfriend? Faced with that question, not only at the sleepover, the reunion was expectant of the answer. Almost the entire female world watching the program was waiting for the answer from their prospective mother-in-law. No. He doesn't have one. Said Issei Hyoudou smiling. Yes. They shouted in jubilation in both the Grimoire Castle and the Phoenix Castle. Back to the program. Well, I was just wondering because, said Albedo, taking an envelope out of his chest. I want to reveal this to you. Then Albedo reveals the contents of the envelope, and they are some photos where his son was with another girl. Ara. Who would have thought that my son would finally decide on a woman older than him? Said Mickey smiling, revealing a photo of a beautiful, red-haired woman with a severe appearance. At the meeting and at the sleepover. Who is that? Who wants to take my Issei away? They all said with trembling hands. Back to the program. Mickey developed each of the photos. First photo. What are they doing? Ria said, very jealous. Second photo. You're going to give him a heart attack. Venelana shouted, very shocked. Third photo. Get off him. Lizard. Serafal shouted very cutely. Fourth photo. Are you preparing lunch for him? Ravel said jealously. And fixing his backpack. Said Grafia equally jealous. Fifth photo. Many women from the supernatural felt very jealous and uncomfortable because the pink-haired woman showed a rather exceptional body and they seemed to enjoy skating even more at that moment. Well, in light of all this. What do you think? Said Albedo. Well, it would be an honor if my son finally has a girlfriend and makes his sweet mother happy. But as the saying goes, finders keeper. Said Mickey. Forgive me Mafayu-san, but I'm doing this so those girls from the underworld have initiative. Said Mickey maliciously. In the underworld. In both castles where they were watching that interview, there was an atmosphere of tension, death and above all. Jealousy. What honor or anything. We're coming for you Issei. Shouted the single women with their voices distorted by anger. Meanwhile with the Issei. I was walking through the streets of Kuo. Wow, if it weren't for Mafayu-sensei. I wouldn't know where to start studying for the university entrance exam. Said Issei very happily. That's right, my friend. Said Drake very surprised. That new tutor you found explains things so well that your grades have increased considerably. Rivaling those that Sona Citri had at the academy. It's true, Issei said, but suddenly he felt a chill. Hey Drake. I have a feeling tomorrow will be a hectic day. How curious, I felt the same. Said Drake. But I feel like I will enjoy tomorrow a lot. Said Drake in his mind. We can see Issei lying on the floor of his house, being crushed by Arias who hugged him with much love by the neck, while suffocating him with her breasts. Asia and Kiryu held him by both arms, struggling as if it were a tug-of-war competition. Venelana and Riser Mehi's bishop tried to take off his jeans. Sona and Kaneko holding him by one leg each, while at the door of the Hyoudou house, there was a Mafayu Kurisu with a penetrating gaze, and she was surrounded by an aura that promised pain and fear to the brown-haired boy. But since we got to this point in the game, so we leave the narrative to our heartthrob. Issei, go for it my boy. Issei's pav. Thank you author. Ahem. Well, you will wonder why the most beautiful girls of the factions have me like this, as if they had not seen me in years, as if I had gone to war, but in front of me, the tutor who is helping me with the application for the university exam, is wanting to kill me. Well, it all started the day before, after the interview my mother had with Albedo-san. Since that day, the few hours of tranquility I had vanished like dust in the wind. My serenity went to the hole, my future is shattered. I just wanted to have a normal life, marry a pretty girl and have nice love stories. Path. Scene change. Hyoudou residence. The next day after Mickey made the women interested in her son start to lose their tempers because of an innocent lie that Albedo told her about the supposed relationship that her son has with his tutor at school, the morning at the Hyoudou residence proceeded as normal. Thanks for breakfast. Issei said, wiping the corner of his lips with a paper napkin and leaving his cutlery on the plate. Son, will you go with Mafayu-san again? Said Issei Hyoudou happily, because she felt quite proud that her son had taken his studies very seriously. That's right, Mom, Issei said, smiling. The university exam is coming up. I shouldn't waste a single day preparing. Wow, what a change our son has had. Said Goro Hyoudou, equally happy for his son. From the perverted beast to the scholar of Kuo. It seems that time has made you mature, son. And not only that, your example and your attitude also made Mitsuda-kun and Motohama-kun react to how perverted you were. Leaving that aside. Said Mickey without losing her smile. So much so that both of you achieved what all of Japan thought was impossible. Getting a girl and getting the best grades at the national level from the three of you. Heh. It's nothing, said a little blushing Issei without knowing that he was familiar with a certain Siskin and the Citri patriarchs along with Phoenix. They were listening to said conversation. By the way, when will we know that we will have a daughter-in-law? Said Mickey, to which Issei made a face of discomfort. Did I say something wrong? No, Mom. Issei said a little quickly. Son, time is passing quickly. Said Goro, calming the tense atmosphere a little. I know that for you as the Sekiryuite and now a prodigy student it is something difficult, but you must give a chance so that you have someone by your side. I still remember when Riaz-chan, Asia-chan and the others tried to flirt with you so that you would reciprocate their feelings, and the truth is that back then when you were a hopeless pervert, we had been surprised. Issei just sighs with some tiredness. Dad. He said, somewhat saddened. The truth is, I don't know whether to believe that Riaz and the others love me or not. After what happened with Rainer and despite the fact that I forgave her, my heart still has doubts. I don't know if they love me for being Hyoudou Issei or for being the current Sekiryuite, the great hero who saved the supernatural as well as humanity from the hands of Rizelvam Lucifer. But also. Issei said, changing his expression. I want to prepare for the future. I don't want to live like the Sekiryuite, I want to be something more in life. It seems your plan to be the king of the harem has ceased, right? Said Mickey Hyoudou. I would be lying if I denied it. Said Issei, summoning his boosted gear and contemplating. Drake told me that the Sekiryuite are destined to have harems. Even the female Sekiryuite have had harems of both men and women, so for me. If I wish to have a harem or in any case have only one wife, that the woman or women who are by my side love me because I am Hyoudou Issei and not because I am the Sekiryuite. Goro and Mickey looked at each other and confirmed their suspicions of their son's maturity, knowing that the perversion of being a lover of breasts and lewd things had been forgotten. Son, hurry up, Kurisu-sensei is waiting for you in the library and today is a group study session with Motohama-kun, Mitsuda-kun and their girlfriends. Mickey said, to which Issei obeyed, took his school bag and proceeded to leave. Well, I'm also leaving to go to work. Said Goro, wiping his lips of the food stains with a paper napkin. He took his jacket and proceeded to leave. Thanks for the food. He said before going to work. Oh wow, the supermarket sales are ending today. Mickey said very sweetly as she got ready to go to said place and also proceeded to leave the Hyoudou residence, leaving her alone. But a magic circle appeared in the main hall of the Hyoudou residence, revealing the single girls of the supernatural who attended the sleepover at the Gremory Castle. All dressed casually, some more exuberant than others, but all had the same goal in common. It's been a long time since I came here. Said Riaz, very happy to return to the Hyoudou residence. Ara. We only left for a week to fix some things with your parents, Riaz. Said Akeno, but stretched her hands and sighed. Ah. My spirits rise when I'm in this place. Said Akeno. On one point I agree with Onasama. Said Asia. Being away from here is like an eternity for me. Of course, I can't be far from Issei-senpai. Said Kaneko, showing her cat ears and tail. Her favorite kitten can die of starvation if she doesn't breathe some of senpai's essence. Shirin, stop being naive. Said Kuroko, also showing her cat ears and tail. We all know that I am Issei Naya's favorite kitten. This is my first time visiting Hyoudou's residence. Murayama said, stupefied, seeing the large mansion where the owner of her size lives. Likewise. Said Kunu and Riser's pawns Mira, Maru and Kira. Now it's time to go for my Issei. Said Riaz determinedly. Excuse me, Riaz. Said Akeno, smiling sweetly while her hands began to shoot lightning. Since when is he yours? As his senpai, it is my right to watch over my Kouhai and pamper him as he should be. Of course he's mine. Riaz said, smiling, challenging Barakiel's daughter. I am his master and he is my cute pawn, so I must be his official girlfriend. I remind you that he is no longer your pawn. Ingvald said, very irritated. So if you must have a wife it should be me, his queen. He must be my boyfriend. Asia said with a pout. He's my first friend, so. Nothing of the sort. Said Sona Citri, glaring at everyone. If someone should be his wife, it should be someone who disciplines him with an iron fist. And that should be me. While most of the girls were arguing, Kuroka saw that the Hyoudou's shoes were not at the entrance and concluded that the Hyoudou family had left. She was going to tell the girls this, but in the living room she saw a sweatshirt, then she takes it and perceives the essence of the person that drives that black kitten crazy. Issei's essence Naya. Kuroka said, lustfully inhaling the sweatshirt as if it were pure oxygen. Issei's essence Naya. Said Kuroka more excitedly while hugging the brown-haired boy's sweatshirt while she began to fondle her body, especially her crotch, running her fingers over her panties, imagining a scene where Issei hugs Kuroka and begins to fantasize being groped by him. Ahem. Said some voices, to which Kuroka suddenly interrupted her sexual fantasy with Issei when she saw the girls competing for the love of the brown-haired boy, emanating a murderous aura against the black Nekomata. What do you think you're doing, Kuroka-san? With a piece of clothing of my Issei. Ria said with a very soft tone of voice, with a very fake smile, while her fist covered him with the force of destruction. This, said Kuroka trying to excuse herself. And also, said Akeno pointing to the part of the black tights that the Nekomata was wearing in the crotch area that was beginning to get wet from how excited she was. I see that you didn't waste time satisfying yourself with Mayonada's garment. And that, said Sona also preparing a water attack. No, said Asia entering Fafner's balance breaker. You, said Zenobia unsheathing X Durandal. You, said Irina unsheathing Hodoclear. We will forgive you, you little retarded cat. Shouted all the girls present. Nye. Kuroka screamed at what was imminent. 5 minutes later. All the supernatural girls were rubbing their knuckles with annoyed expressions, while Kuroka had half her body buried in the concrete floor, only her legs were visible, and they were in frog form. Then Riaz and the others begin to smell Issei's sweatshirt and also begin to fantasize. Ah. Issei. Said Riaz very stunned. Issei-kun. Said Akeno biting her lip. Issei-sama. Said Ravel and the Phoenix. Hey, if you stretch Hyoudu's sweatshirt like that. Said Kiryu adjusting his glasses. Why fight over a simple piece of clothing when this is his room and he must have a complete closet, we can smell Hyoudu's essence. Said the brunette with perversity. I especially want to smell all his underwear. Said Aika licking her lips. At the pervert's great idea, they all looked at each other in approval and quickly went to the first floor towards the brown-haired boy's room. Kaneko and Shulin were dragging an unconscious Kuroka across the floor and hitting her more on the head every time they went up a step while Serafel did the floor repair. Upon reaching the entrance of said room, Riaz proceeded to open it to reveal the room where the brown-haired boy slept, and the first impression was that the posters and all the idol merchandise, wafers where they demonstrated their total perversion, were now replaced by books on science, mathematics, algebra, integral and differential calculus, chemistry, physics and other subjects. There were also many notes in algebraic, trigonometric and analytical geometry calculations scattered on the floor. All the notes were circled as a sign that they were correct. As expected from Hyoudou. Said Cadis very surprised to see the mathematical exercises. For some reason he is considered the new scholar prince of the academy. These exercises are very advanced. Said Sona, surprised. It would be very difficult for me to answer them. Kaneko was trying to see if her senpai was still a pervert. She looked under Issei's bed and found a box, thinking it was his private porn collection. She opened the box and got a surprise. They are university education pamphlets, Kaneko said. Kuoha University, Hokkaido University, Ryokan University, Tokyo University, Kyoto University, and Narita University. Darling is preparing for high-demand universities. Irina said, surprised to see some papers from Sapporo University. The future father of my children has erased every flame of perversion. Said Zenobia. But with Riaz, Akeno and other girls, they lied down on the gigantic bed where Issei slept. Ah. The smell of my cute Issei. Said Riaz lying face down on said piece of furniture while with her hands she took the sheet that covered the mattress. Ara Riaz. Don't take it all for yourself. Said Akeno also taking a piece of the sheet from Issei's bed. Asia for her part also snuggled up in her beloved Issei's bed. And here it is. Said Aika Kiryu triumphantly with a triumphant smile. Ladies. Here are the doors to our little happiness. Said the brunette opening the doors of Issei's closet and revealing all kinds of clothes from formal to informal. All the girls who attended the sleepover began to untangle the clothes from Issei's closet. You could see the Nekomatas of Razor Nai and Lee's entourage fighting against Kaneko and Kunu over some jeans. Rainer and Mitlet rolling on the floor while smelling some of Issei's shirts. The Knight of Sona's entourage, the Reaper Benia, hugged Issei's coat as if it were a teddy bear. Office took a grey sweatshirt and stood in a sign of empowerment to impregnate herself with the sweet essence of her Issei, and others in a much greater tone of lust like Kalawiner. NMU and Akeno who smelled the clothes of their love interest, some shoes, a tank top and a training shirt respectively, began to self-satisfy themselves by touching their breasts and crotch. Everything was happiness in the girls who were invading Issei's room when. Oh, where is my grey sweatshirt? Said a voice that opened the door of said room revealing Issei Hyoudou being surprised to see the supernatural girls making a mess in his room. Ahem. He cleared his voice calling the attention of Riaz and company leaving them frozen. May I know what are you doing with my clothes? Ice. Riaz said blushing a lot seeing the new appearance of her cute pawn, but she sees that he has one of her Issei's underwear and hides them. She tried to excuse herself, but because of her nerves and seeing the person who stole her heart, they had left it like the blue screen on the computers. Ara. Issei-kun, we came to give you a nice surprise. Said Akeno approaching sensually. Your senpai has missed you a lot, said Akeno revealing a little of her cleavage before Issei's eyes, who quickly got a little nervous. Girls. Are you okay? Issei said, swallowing heavily at the wild instincts of the supernatural women, as if they were animals in heat. Of course Ice. Said Zenobia. You know that you have neglected us a lot, so we deserve compensation for that, especially the girls in your entourage. Asia, Ravel, Ingvald, Benia and Roswis nodded fiercely with a gleam in their eyes. Muo. I must be rewarded. Irina shouted. After all, I am her guardian angel. We all asked for it. Said Gabriel, pleading for the others, a little blushed and who had quickly hidden some boxers behind her. You fearful little dragon. Said Penemu, now rubbing her breasts against the brown-haired boy under the jealous gaze of the others who were watching him. You know I came for you. So ignore these girls and let's write passionately to the stork. Said the cadre Penemu, who discreetly put a photo in his pants. Are you girls okay? Issei said, a bit nervous, seeing how all the girls in his room were breathing heavily. A pink and purple aura emanated from the girls of the supernatural. He felt that his life, like unconsciously, his mini Ascalon, was in danger of being used and not to stab a dragon. Partner, Drake said mentally, all of them came with a purpose. To leave you dry, so if I were you. Run. Pause, what do I want them for? Issei shouted, running away. And obeying the dragon inside him. Issei runs out of his house at full speed. Girls, don't let him get away. Ria shouted. The first girl to catch him will have his virginity, no hard feel. That ignited the instinct for fair competition, nah, pure nonsense, and the eyes of the supernatural girls shone wildly. Hi, they all shouted and proceeded to inaugurate the first dragon hunting season. Some girls climbed out of Issei's room window, while others climbed out the main door of the Hyoudou residence in order to catch a mischievous and innocent red dragon emperor. Time skip. Issei was running for his life in the streets of the neighborhood where he lived. He hadn't felt so scared in a long time, not even when he faced Trihixa, not even when he faced Hades, not even when his mother was going to hit him with her flip-flop. Well, that's the fear of every child when we fail and don't obey them, but seeing a woman crazy with love was something disturbing, but a horde of young women of the supernatural behind her bones was more than terrified. What's wrong with you all? Issei shouted while nerves and fear tormented him. It's what I told you so much. Said Drake, sighing bored. The girls have gone crazy for you, now they have shown themselves very aggressive to seduce your heart, and it is partly your fault for being indecisive, absent-minded and leaving them waiting for too long. In my suggestion, you have two options. Either you escape from here and make a life in another country, or you accept your destiny of being dry and worse than a raisin. But I have to go with Mafai-sensei. Said Issei. Do you know what happened the last time I wasn't punctual with her? Let me remember. A rather heavy sermon, and I give you a look as threatening as the one Graphia gave to Serzich's Lucifer when he revealed his current wife to the demonic society. Said Drake. Ibu, whatever you do. You're dead, well I'll sleep for a while, and most likely I'll wake up as a new carrier, good luck. He ended by cutting off the communication. You are a great help, abnormal lizard. Said Issei, but suddenly. Bang. Issei narrowly dodged a lightning attack aimed at his head and ended up scorching a light pole. Ara. Where are you going? Cowhide. Said a voice with a touch of sadism, and Issei sees Akeno accompanied by Asia, Gabriel, Mitlet, Cirrus, Nomura and Lefay, who had that expression that sometimes scared him. Oh fuck. Issei shouted as he got ready to run again. Don't let him escape. Shouted the fallen lowly, creating a trident of light, starting the chase again. Come here, Issei-sama. Said Razor's knight, Cirrus, who had summoned her sword. I assure you that we will not do anything to you. Just give you the love you deserve. Of course. Giving me love means embedding that sword in my being. Issei shouted, alarmed, while Cirrus blushed without any shame. I'm not a fanatic of Apache love. We can change that. Said Sona Citri's pawn Raruko Nomura. For that we have an expert, and that is Akeno. Senpai. Ara. Nomura-chan. Not even Riaz has flattered me with that compliment, that's why when I catch him I'll share my cowhide with you. Said Akeno happily. No. Issei shouted, speeding up his pace, losing sight of the first group of ladies from the underworld. Kuo Library. Mafayu Kurisu was sitting with 4 people in the building, the 5 of them were waiting for a certain person. Where is Hyoudou-kun? Said the pink-haired girl looking at her watch. It's very rare for him to be late. Said Mitsuda, Kuo's former pervert and one of the current principals of the academy. He usually lets us know when he has any problems. Said Motohama, also surprised. Let's hope he's okay, huh, honey? Said a brunette, giving the brunette a kiss on the cheek. Hi, Koyoi-san. Said Mitsuda. Hey. Said a dark-haired girl. I also want to shower Motohama-chan with kisses, but we are in front of Mafayu-sensei, and you know very well her opinion about displays of love in front of her. She said, pointing at the pink-haired tutor. Mitsuda and Koyoi felt a threatening aura and saw Professor Mafayu looking at them intimidatingly. It seems that I will leave you triple the amount of analytical geometry exercises so that you can understand that you are in a tutorial, not in the park showing each other love. Ahhhhhhh. Gamensai. The couple shouted at each other, who were holding back their laughter, but in that. Help. Shouted a voice that Mafayu Kurisu's study group recognized, and immediately they saw how a brown-haired boy was running through the streets, and his face reflected that his life was in danger. Hyoudou-kun. Mafayu Kurisu shouted as she was about to call him. Quickly, he don't escape. Ravel shouted now, chasing him with a rope. Issei-sama, take responsibility for our feelings. Shouted Carloman, wielding her sword. Be the father of my children. Shouted Razor's Nekomata pawn, Lee. Come back here Issei-chan. Serafol shouted wearing her Mahu Shoujo outfit. Hyoudou come to my arms. Caddis shouted madly while wielding her wooden shinai. Office was also chasing the brown-haired boy and made a weird characteristic roar while they ran to catch Issei. All under the gaze of the study group that stayed in shock. Guys, the session is suspended. Said Mafayu Kurisu worriedly while collecting her things. See you tomorrow at the same time. Said the pink-haired girl leaving the library at a hurried pace towards a very obvious destination. Issei, what the hell did you do? Mitsuda, Motohama, Koioi and Haruka said in their minds, seeing how he was chased. Change of scene. Issei continued running through the streets, while parts of the supernatural singles chased him. During the journey he dodged spells, sword blows, tackles and turns of the girls who did what was necessary to catch him, and those who resented said attacks were trash cans, fences, poles, trees, high-voltage cables, and the occasional person who received blows from the hand-to-hand combatants. While he ran through the alley someone had grabbed him by the shirt and dragged him into a dark alley, and someone covered his mouth. MMMMFFFMFMMF. Issei tried to scream but. SHH. Said a voice he recognized. Calm down Issei-kun, we are helping you. Said another voice. GRMMM, Grafia-sama. Venelana-sama. Said Issei when he saw that. And in that the brown-haired boy sees the supernatural girls looking for him everywhere. We lost Issei-chan. Said Gabriel lamenting. Keep searching, it shouldn't be far away. Ria said, to which everyone nodded and prepared to leave. At that Grafia leaves Issei so he can breathe a little. Thank you very much. Grafia-sama. Venelana-sama. Said Issei panting. Yufufu, you're welcome Issei-kun. Said the brunette a little blushing. But for saving your skin. I think we deserve a reward. Said to the brunette smiling evilly while a blush took over her cheeks. Huh? Issei said a little confused. Bam. Grafia had cornered Issei with her leg by putting her against the wall, giving him a good view of her well-formed thighs and a bit of her wine-colored panties, her garter belt and her stockings of the same color. She also couldn't hide her blush at the brown-haired man, while her tongue wandered over her fleshy lips before a brown-haired man quite terrified of two predatory milfs. And if we get to know each other a little better. Said Issei very terrified, but at that Venelana and Grafia began to gasp from how anxious and excited they were. I think not. Shouted Issei who by some miracle was able to escape from the alley and from the two predatory milfs. Hell, I escaped. Said Grafia. Let's follow him. Said the former Grimoire matriarch, also starting the chase. Time skipped 2 hours later. Our Casanova was arriving at his residence all soaked with sweat and with his legs shaking, he proceeds to enter his house. Okay. I can't take it anymore. Issei said exhausted, opening his house, but receiving a juicy but terrifying surprise, seeing certain women who were waiting for him with thoughts that even Satan himself would disapprove of. Hello Issei-kun, said Lady Phoenix. The hero and pillar of the factions has arrived. Yusaka said, licking her lips. The Lord blessed our fateful meeting. Said Griselda Quarta blushing while putting her hands in prayer. I can't wait to have our babies, what my dear. Tiamat said in a flirtatious manner. It's time to give my savior. My retribution for saving my life. Said Kateria Leviathan while showing part of her lush and tan body. The Himejima clan still needs a powerful leader, so Issei-kun. I surrender to you. Said Suzaku Himejima. Issei was about to flee his house by opening the door again, but tiredness had already taken hold of him to run again, but when he sees that everything is wrong for him, he sees other magic circles appear, and they revealed the other DXD girls, the Grimoire entourage, the Citri entourage, the single girls of the Phoenix entourage, the girls of Volley's team. The girls of his same entourage. All had gathered in a practically tense atmosphere and at any moment blood and blows were about to be unleashed. Oka-sama. Grafia and Isama. What are you doing here? Ria shouted, impressed to see her mother and her ex-sister-in-law. Ara. We just came to pamper Issei-kun. Said Venelana smiling provocatively, something that Ria's took as an indirect declaration of war. Griselda Onasama, what are you doing here? Zenobia said, shocked upon seeing her sister and legal guardian. Zenobia, this is no way to talk to your tutor like that. And soon to be the wife of the Sekiruyute. Said Griselda Quarta. You're wrong, I will be the next Mrs. Hyoudou. Said Ingvald. Dreaming is free, brat. Said Kateria looking at the little girl. Issei-kun, he will only have eyes on someone beautiful and powerful like me. I'll be the next Mrs. Hyoudou, you scruffy mules with ticks. Asia shouted hysterically to all the girls present. Wow, the ex-nun got wild. Said Drake, impressed by Asia's balls when insulting, especially the powerful personalities who were present. All the girls were arguing and Issei took the opportunity to leave quietly but he's escaping. Shouted Razor's pawns, the chainsaw twins Maru and Kira, pointing at Issei. Where are you going? Said all the girls, going against Issei like a maddened horde. Shit. Issei said, all terrified, receiving a full blow from Sona, Suzaku, Akeno and Burant, knocking him down. He only felt the girls start to touch his entire body in a lascivious manner, some enjoying smelling him, hugging him, and above all, checking the quality of the mini Ascalon to be used in an epic battle. Everything was uncomfortable for the brown-haired boy until Hyoudou-kun. The voice shouted and Issei stretched his head to find the origin of the shout when he saw the one who would truly be afraid of him. Mafayu Kurisu with a dead look and an aura that she gave off, dark, threatening, and that promised a sermon as heavy as those of a priest on Sunday at 7 a.m. Obscene. Really obscene. You're not going to tutorials for flirting with this group of spinner women. Issei gulped and broke into a cold sweat at one of the few existences he was truly afraid of. The supernatural girls had located their rival to beat because they still remembered the photos they saw on the super interviews with Albedo program. You? Ria said, pointing with a trembling finger at the pink-haired girl who seemed confused about what the red-haired girl was referring to. You are the one who takes Issei away from us. EHHHH. Said Mafayu Kurisu putting on another terrifying look while expelling more of her intimidating aura, something that silenced the Gremory and left most of the supernatural women trembling. What are you saying, brat? The atmosphere was getting a little heated, the tension was rising, Issei was willing to give all the money from the Op-Eye Dragon royalties just to vanish there until. Let's see. Said another voice applauding to calm the tension and turning to Issei's mother, Miki Hyoudou with a smile. It's good to know that there are women interested in my sweet son, but at this rate I'll be left without a son, but above all I will be left without the privilege of having grandchildren and being sweetly called grandmother, so why don't we discuss it like civilized people, don't you think? Huh? Mafayu Kurisu said very confused but, yes, mother-in-law. Shouted all the girls from the supernatural to which Issei went whiter than a white blood cell at what his own mother said. Why is this only happening to me? Issei said, crying in a comical way, because the beginning of this madness called the life of the last bachelor of the underworld is just about to begin. Ending the first season of the Red Emperor Dragon Hunt without a winner, thanks to Miki Hyoudu's intervention upon seeing that her poor son was about to be plucked like a Thanksgiving turkey by women desperate for love. Now all the supernatural ladies were in the main hall of the Hyoudou mansion sitting in Caesar position, and in front of them was a Miki who was sitting on a padded chair with her leg crossed while drinking a cup of tea, looking at the supernatural ladies with eyes that mixed seriousness and joy. On one side was Mafayu Kurisu, who had a face of seeing something truly incredible and so obscene. And on the other side was tied with ropes, anti-magic obviously requested from Ajuka Beelzebub, and gagged in a wooden chair, was Issei who was crying in a comical way, seeing his own mother treat him like first prize in the skill games of a festival. All the females interested in Issei were nervous about their prospective mother-in-law, while the hall was in total silence. Teenagers, lawless and MILFs were before Miki without exception. Some girls were sweating from nervousness such as Murayama, Caddis, because they hoped that their future mother-in-law did not know that they too, along with their kendo club, treated their son like their two ex-perverted friends, like pinatas at Mexican Christmas celebrations. Oh no. Murayama said in her mind, all terrified and blue and sweating profusely, seeing a bit of hostility in Miki's eyes, regretting those moments of extreme violence against Issei. I should have gone to an anger management specialist. Ada said to herself in her mind also with a sad comical face, because if she knew about the abuse of her son, that would cost her many points to be worthy of her son. But then Miki sees Caddis, and she can't help but be surprised by the fear turning purple with fear. With that he takes the last sip of the herbal infusion and leaves it on a small table he had at one side. Your lemon balm tea with ginger is very delicious as always. Thanks Asia-chan. Said Miki smiling at her. Said Asia smiling proudly at the compliment from her mother-in-law under the jealous gaze of the others. I can do better. Said in their mind some of Issei's very jealous suitors, among them Grafia who grabbed her apron with great disgust, Venelana did it with her one-piece skirt, Gabriel made a tender pout, Penemu had in mind how to torture her and some girls like Ravel. Briaz and Akeno who were annoyed with the blonde who stuck her tongue out at them in a sign of mockery and victory. Well, now that you've calmed down a bit. Said Miki smiling. It's good that all of you are interested in Issei. Said Miki Hyoudou smiling. I was already resigning myself to one thing. that my son was gay, but now both my husband and I can rest easy and we'll know the delights of being grandparents. Ahohohoho. Said Mickey, laughing like a true high society lady, while the suitors were sweating a drop on her head, but a Fujoishi smiled as she imagined Issei in such an intimate situation with another man. Kiryu-san. Why is your nose bleeding? Ryakusaka said as she saw the brunette with braids while her two nostrils were bleeding outrageously, accompanied by a silly smile, steam coming out of her body, and panting similar to a dog's. Huh? Kiryu reacted, quickly putting paper on both nostrils and pouring a glass of cold water on her face to cool off, while other competitors looked at her strangely, but some who knew her darkest perversions, such as Murayama, Caddis, Asia, Zenobia and Arena, saw her with a twitch in her eyes, and several veins on her forehead were highlighted. Not to mention Mafayu, who was blue in the face, seeing a huge pervert. Well, I want you all to tell me why you were interested in my son, and most importantly, tell me the truth. Said Mickey with great severity, something that made the girls, even Venelana, Dana Phoenix, Grafia, Tiamat and Yusaka, flinch at the tone of voice used by that woman. Mickey was clear about what her son had said at breakfast, that the woman or women who are by my side love me for being Hyoudou Issei, and not for being the Sekiryuite. Here she will take 50% of the veracity of the girl's intention with her son. We start with Urias-chan. At that the retard nodded and stood up to face her mother-in-law with respect, and to lighten her feet a little after being in the Caesar position for a long time. Well, Mickey-san. Said Rias, smiling. The reason why I fell in love with this is because from the beginning he saw me only as Rias and not for the titles I carry in the underworld, also. She said very shyly while taking his hair in a flirtatious way. He is very honest, he respects me as a woman, he is very brave, and he has a heart of gold. These are qualities that made me fall in love with him. Mickey listened to Ria's reason and saw that when she said her reasons, she looked into her eyes without hesitation with a slight pink tone on her cheeks. When saying the last reasons, at no time did she feel that she was lying to her, so Mickey could say that the retreat had passed successfully. Rias. Issei said, surprised. He had heard over and over again the reason why she had fallen in love with him. Karisu for her part was surprised by the confidence Rias said when confronting Mickey. Now Akeno-chan, please. Said Mickey, to which Ria's queen, Akeno Himejima, now stood up to give her reasons. Well, Mickey-san, for my part I can tell you that the main reason why I fell in love with your son was because he helped me accept myself. Said Akeno, putting her hands on her chest while her smooth cheeks turned reddish. Not only that, he also helped me unite with the only family I had left, but above all, he is very nice and very chivalrous. Like Rias, he doesn't see me as a piece of meat, and I feel very safe being with his son. Those things are what give him his charm, Yufufufu. Said Akeno, finishing with her usual flirtatious laugh, while putting her right hand on the cheek on that side. Asia-chan, your turn. Said Mickey Hyoudou, to which the blonde nodded and began. Well. I fell in love with Issei-san because he was the first person who offered me his support after I was excommunicated because of Diodora Astaroth. He was also the first person who gave me a home, my best friends and of course a beautiful family which welcomed me warmly. Because of his actions I fell madly in love with Issei-san. She said very shyly. Mafai was surprised by what Asia said. She hadn't realized a big heart Issei had when helping a person selflessly. Now Kaneko-chan. Said Mickey, asking the white Nekomata for the reasons, to which she stood up to speak. Well, Mickey-san. Just like Akeno-senpai, Issei-senpai helped me accept myself and helped me reconcile with my sister. Even though Issei-senpai was once a total pervert, he was always kind and looked out for our well-being. That made him win my heart. Said Kaneko with a slight smile, while showing her Nekomata features as a sign of love and a little embarrassment. Upon hearing that testimony, Mafayu gave Issei a terrifying look that only meant, "We'll talk alone one of these days." Michael, for once in your life, do your job well and give me a miracle. Said Issei, crying comically under a rather incomprehensible language because he had a piece of cloth in his mouth when he saw his advisor promising him a very strong scolding. And so Mickey went on interviewing the aforementioned women who wanted to taste the bones of her beloved son, where they revealed to her the reasons why they fell in love with Issei. Some mentioned her for being kind, brave, giving them a new meaning to their lives, and for not seeing them as a piece of meat, as in the case of Zenobia, Irina, Kuroka, Roswis, Ravel, Murayama, Caddis, Kiryu, Ingvold, Benia Citri's entourage, Serafal, Gabriel, Penemu, Elmenhold, Office and Yusaka with Kunu. Others mentioned having spared their lives and saved their skin in the war against the Cows Brigade, causing an imminent attraction to the chestnut, as in the case of Kateria, Rainer, Mitlet and Kalwerner. The Phoenix entourage mentioned that thanks to him, Razor became a good person to such an extent that he gave them the freedom to fight for the love of the Sekiryuite. Others for how dedicated he is, the honesty with which he addresses others, and anything he proposes or promises he fulfills completely, such as the case of Suzaku, Abe, Grafia, Venelana, Tiamat, Griselda, Dana Phoenix and Roygun Bullfelger. Miki Hyoudou was pleased that the girls truly love her son for who he is and not for having the title of Sekirute, demonstrating the truthfulness of the feelings they have for the brunette. "Well, what are your intentions with my son?" said Miki Hyoudou. The Sekirute suitors shouted in unison and in a coordinated manner, blushing, and some with their hearts shining furiously in their eyes. To be the next lady of Hyoudou, get married, have a lot of sex with him and give him a lot of love, but above all a lot of children to Issei. Issei-kun, Issei-san, Issei-sama, Issei-chan, Issei-senpai, Issei-naya. At the roar of the women, some were proud of what they shouted, others covered their reddened faces with their hands and shook their heads in excitement, others simply lowered their faces in shame at revealing such a statement to their mother-in-law, others remained calm, but smoke was coming out of their heads, and their blush was very noticeable. Miki for her part was pleased because fortunately her wish to be a grandmother could come true. Issei for his part was white with shock, but Mafai, before that comment from the women, had a grimace that totally reflected her total repudiation of said statement because she considered it very obscene, especially from mature women trying to coax a poor teenager. "Now. I can't wait to be a grandmother, you all have my approval," said Miki smiling at them while giving them a thumbs up. "Yes." All the supernatural girls shouted excitedly. "MFFMFM. MMMM. Mom, you just condemned me," Issei shouted while in his mind he would give all his money to disappear from there. At that, the girls' apparent good manners quickly disappeared to give way to the true faces of the suitors. Their faces began to show lust, love, but above all, they wanted to taste dragon meat. "Yujujuju. Don't resist Issei," Ria said flirtatiously while showing her cleavage. "Ara, we promise to leave you with a minimum state of consciousness," said Akeno while also showing part of her personality. "You must please your favorite kittens Naya," said Kuroka very provocatively while walking on all fours looking with total perversion at Issei, while Kaneko imitated her. "Let the true experience take you to Valhalla or at least to Nirvana, isn't it Yusaka, Grafia and Dana?" said Venelana Bale breathing heavily while the aforementioned nodded fiercely and began to expel steam from their lustful mouths that urged them to kiss the dragon that was before their eyes. Issei, seeing the horde of women and young ladies in need of love, could only say in his mind, "Grandpa. I'll go with you in a few moments, I hope you're proud of me," said Issei. "And I wanted to study at the university." But someone interrupts them. "Wait." Lafayu Kurisu shouted, upset, as she stood in the way of the lustful women. "Miki-san, you must keep in mind that Issei-kun is preparing for the Kuo University exams, and at this rate he's going. He won't even make it alive until tomorrow. Salvation." Issei screamed crying while in his mind he saw the pink-haired girl with an angel halo dressed as a nun. The supernatural girls were angry with the woman who tried to flirt with their Issei, but she didn't show any fear because she also gave off her intimidating aura, ready to protect her student. "Kurisu-sensei is right," said Miki, thinking things through. "Because my son is working hard these days and there are 3 months left until the exam, so if you truly love my son, you should support him during this time." "How can we help you, mother-in-law?" said Razor Shulin's tower. "Simple. In 3 months, there will be no kisses, no displays of affection, I mean, coochie-coochie, there will be no nighttime assaults on Issei's bed, no flirting or provocations of the sexual kind," said Miki smiling. "Ah." The women complained bitterly. "Any problem?" said Miki Hyoudou with a spectral voice and a smile that did not reflect any happiness, while a Shinigami appeared behind her giving her an intimidating air. "No, mother-in-law," said all the girls sweating cold. "Oh, look at the time," said Miki with a smile as she looked at her wristwatch. "It's time for dinner, so who will do me the honor of helping me make the preparations?" But that question alone was enough to start a fight again. "Get Sona-sama away from the kitchen," Yuri Tsubasa shouted while hitting Cirrus. "I will be the one to accompany Miki-sama," shouted the twins Maru and Kira pulling Grafia and Raruko Nomura's hair. "Let me go with Oka-sama, it's my right." Bleh. Ria shouted but stopped when she received a wrestling-style elbow to the solar plexus from Kunu, knocking her out. "I have to go, you immature girls." Roygun and Dana Phoenix shouted, hitting Akeno and Suzaku. A whole brawl had broken out in front of a Miki who was happily humming while putting on her apron, and a nervous Issei and Kurisu, who untied the brown-haired boy who were watching the strongest win spectacle. "Hyoudou-kun, tomorrow the consultation will be held at your house for security reasons," said the pink-haired girl finishing removing the handkerchief from his mouth. "But one of these days you will tell me at what point in your life you became a pervert, and I want all the details, one by one, okay?" said Kurisu while Issei wanted to be thrown into the dimensional gap as quickly as possible. At that the pink-haired woman proceeds to withdraw. While walking through the streets, she was quite uneasy about what she had witnessed. Issei Hyoudou was in imminent danger, and she was not going to let a group of women ruin all her efforts on the most outstanding and distinguished student she had managed to form. I can't leave Issei-kun alone. I must protect his chastity. Kurisu said determinedly, but seeing so much affection towards the brown-haired boy, she began to feel uneasy. She didn't like that feeling at all. Tomorrow I'll move to the Hyoudou residence, I can't leave him alone. While in said residence. After the game, Ravel, Yusaka, Kunu, Office and Tiamat were victorious in helping Mickey with dinner, while the other girls just spent their time lamenting having lost this game, but will wait for another opportunity to win favoritism points with their mother-in-law. Issei was already on the verge of collapse, as his mother only played with his feelings in a cruel and vulgar way. He just looked at the sky and screamed in despair. Not knowing that Issei's true torture began next, while Drake just thought that if he didn't go crazy with power, he would be the first Sekiryuite to go crazy from an attack by women desperate in love. So Ichibi Drake would help his bearer in whatever way he could. He was seen reading several books, including one that was quite useful. If psychology doesn't work to calm your nerves with therapy, this will do. Said Drake with a book that says Family Planning for Idiots. Hyoudou residence 10 p.m. We can see our beloved protagonist again in a rather unusual situation. Because Hyoudou Issei, a protagonist who is showered with luck like honey on flakes with the most beautiful women of the supernatural, felt that his manhood and virginity were in critical danger. Hey girls. What's wrong with you? Issei said, very nervous while he was being tied to a chair with an anti-magic rope, while the one who adjusted said ropes was Sona Citri leaning on the same chair with her foot giving him a view of her purple panties, as if Kaichu herself, the same president with a temper harder than iron, and the one who does not tolerate any breach of the rules, was insinuating him to look at said intimate garment while on her face. Her glasses were shining in an intimidating way and a smile that reflected everything, except happiness. Something that the other supernatural girls shared with a gloomy look and an aura so purple that it really intimidated whoever looked at them. But how the hell did Issei end up like that? 20 minutes before. In the crowded dining room of the Hyoudou mansion, all the supernatural girls and the humans who knew that world could be seen eating everything Mickey had cooked for that night. It is worth mentioning that there were girls who supported her prospective mother-in-law in sharing the food: Rias, Akeno, Asia, Kaneko and Tiamat. When they tasted the miso soup with ginger that Mickey had made, they all screamed. Delicious. Mickey liked knowing that her food is really exquisite. How delicious is this? Said Razor's Knight, Carloman. I love homemade food, Murayama said now as he ate Mickey's soup as if there was no tomorrow. The taste of the Hyoudou family is the best. Said Asia very happily. I haven't eaten something so delicious in ages, Kateria said, crying comically as she finished her 5th plate of Cantonese pork. I understand, Kateria-san. Rainer, Midlet and Kalwerner said in unison, also crying comically while eating sushi non-stop. All those present nodded in agreement with what the girl said, who exclaimed happily. Issei ate with a little more restraint while at his side were Venelana and Lady Phoenix, who were holding back their desire to eat a tender red dragon, but in that. Issei. Said a voice that the brown-haired boy recognized, and what he saw as Ria's grimoire, he approached with a determined step to face his brown-haired boy of his dreams. What's wrong, Rias? Issei said in a carefree manner while drinking a cup of tea. We want to know how you met Mafayu Kurisu right now. Rias said in that. PFFFFF. Issei, in a natural and surprising way, faced with that question that the Redeed had asked him, spat out the tea he had in his mouth, wetting Kiryu's, Gabriel's and Raruko's faces. An indirect kiss from Issei. Said Gabriel dreamily, putting some of the tea spat out by Issei on her lips. I will not wash this blouse and bra again. Said Kiryu looking at said clothes stained with black tea. While with Raruko Nomura, she was limited to daydreaming while she felt in her mind how Issei sprinkled her person with black tea in an infinite loop, a source of joy. How strange and how jealous I am. Ria said in her mind, looking at the 3 who were sprayed with Issei's tea, something that the others shared this thought. Hey. Rias, why do you want to know? Issei said, looking at the Redeed while she trembled with her cup in her hand and began to sweat. Issei-kun, why are you trembling at Ria's request? Akeno said suspiciously. Is there something we don't know about Kurisu-san? Suspicious. Said Kaneko as she finished her dish. I'd say quite a lot. Said Seraphil, smiling innocently as she expelled a bit of her aura. I agree with the stinky cat. Ravel said while Kaneko looked at Ravel with intimidating eyes for how she called her. Perhaps. Have you done something wrong, Issei-sama? Said Razor's Bishop, Mihi, looking at the brown-haired boy with accusatory eyes. It only took that statement from the drill-haired blonde for all the girls interested in the Sekiryuite to stare dangerously at Issei. The poor brunette was sweating profusely. Partner, I recommend you be honest with them, it's better to have a few broken bones than a bigger complication. Drake said in his mind. You say it so easily. Issei said mentally. When you don't know the terror of facing an entire army of desperate women who urgently need to get married soon, and several women were wives of the most important patriarchs of the underworld, not to mention that one is the mother of the berserker of hell, and the other of my suitors is his ex-wife. Issei said, very terrified while he thought about the silhouettes of Grafia and Venelana in dominatrix outfits, laughing threateningly. Out of the chestnut's mind. Issei, seeing all his suitors still looking at him like a leopard about to hunt a tender rabbit, decided to do a very old but effective strategy. I think I'll go to the bathroom. Said Issei, trying to leave the dining room, but in that. Because it's cold on the feet. He said in his mind when he sees that both feet were frozen to the floor. What the hell? Now Issei-kun, where do you think you were going? Said Grafia Lucifuge while she had activated a magic circle on her fingers, where she revealed that she was the one who froze both of his feet. If you thought you were going to escape, darling, Irina said, very downcast but with a creepy smile. You are very wrong. Said Kateria Leviathan, taking the anti-magic chains that by accident Mickey had left near her. Even my blind grandmother can decipher that strategy, Issei-kun. Said Murayama, smiling wickedly. Issei, I knew that I had already made a big deal out of it. Mom. Dad, help me. Issei shouted, but. Oh, what a pity, the tea is gone, I'll go make more. Said Mickey, standing up from her chair to pick up a teapot, full to make the excuse look more fake, and go to the dining room. Let's start baseball and play the playoffs. Said Goro Hyoudou, heading with a fake smile to the main hall, destroying the brown-haired boy's last hope of help, leaving him very pale. Issei, said Riaz with a sensual and dangerous voice, while Luceno and Caddis approached her in a sign of support. Will you answer by good or by bad? Said Riaz, smiling while several veins were shown on the Redeed's forehead, while her fist was surrounded by the force of destruction. Okay. Okay, I'll tell the truth, I swear. Issei shouted, raising his hand in surrender. It was the smartest thing you could have done, partner. Said a mini drake in the boosted gear, reading a book called Beginner's Guide to Human Sacrifices. Very well, Issei-kun, you did well. Said Pinemu, congratulating the brown-haired boy as if he were a puppy when he sat down and gave him her paw. It's good that you decided to cooperate. However. Said the cadre, snapping their fingers. At that, Reassur Shulin's tower quickly kicks him in the back of his knees. Issei feels like he's falling, but at the same time, Kateria Leviathan ties Issei up with the anti-magic chains, surrounding him from his shoulders to his ankles, while at the same time, Kunu and Office briefly sat Issei down on another chair, in such perfect synchronization to begin an interrogation that the police corporations and the Soviet gulags would give him Olympic gold. And before that, Sona Sitri, tightening the anti-magic strings under the face that was described at the beginning of the fic, said, "Tell us everything and don't leave out any detail, you understand?" Sona said in a quiet voice. Aye. Issei shrieked in nervousness and nodded at what Sona said. The others were ready for anything. Well, how I met Kurisu-sensei. It was quite unusual. 2 months after the Azazel Cup. Issei's POV. After the Sekiryuite of the Blazing Truth team won the much coveted Azazel Cup, we returned to our usual busy routine, but the girls had become more aggressive in showing their feelings. On Ria's side, Akeno and Sona-san attended the university. From time to time they would send me greetings or manage to escape from classes, and at the first opportunity they would cover me with kisses all over the place, and when they couldn't, from the fields of the university grounds, they would blow me a kiss or show their cleavage without any shame, so I could see them. Sona would do her best with her B cups, but I still blushed meeting her expectations, and in Tsubaki's case, she would without hesitation approach Kiba, who was having lunch with me and Gasper, and in front of everyone, not caring that there were teachers, she would plant a fierce French kiss on him, leaving the poor prince all red from such an action by the former vice president of the council. For the others, Zenobia, with the help of Irina and almost all of Sona's entourage, helped with her student council duties, but Momo and Saji discovered in her writing scribbles and hearts where things like Zenobia, Issei, and several kidnapping plans with vacations included came from, demonstrating the blue-haired girl's madness for me. They also listened to Irina's prayers with Asia's imploring the God of the Bible to notice me, and as if from where that great being rests, he sent them advice of insinuation. Heavens, how disturbing. Roswas, for her part, tried to maintain her professional profile as a teacher, but every now and then she let slip a compliment like, "Well answered, dear." "Excellent answer, love," by Big Red. That girl can't stop giving me very embarrassing moments in front of the class. Also Roigun-chan, since she is now the nurse at Kuo Academy, would look for any excuse to take me to the infirmary and spend a moment alone, but as fate would have it, I always ended up in other matters, so my virginity can live one more day. Ravel and Kaneko were dueling for the right to sit on my lap, which had become a spectacle at the academy. They ranged from boxing, Greco-Roman wrestling, the 100-meter Kaneko I mean flat, and even cooking and craft competitions, where so far they have a 30-30 record, they were tied. Kuroka and Yusaka once tried to kidnap me in gym class and tried to take me out of school to have sex, but they were discovered by the leaders and rescued me in time. Of course, considering that the two of them were put in Caesar position for more than 24 hours under the supervision of Surzich's new wife and Milika's stepmother, after that, they couldn't use their feet for a whole week, and I want to tell you that Kunu developed a sadistic side in punishing her mother when she got too smart with me. But now something has me very stressed, so to speak. I can't know where to start studying to get into university. He shouted desperately while looking at many guides for admission to said institutions. Bah, don't complain, Issei, said Mitsuda. I want to start studying for my subjects for which I have many failures, but the only thing I discover is that I'm useless, said Mitsuda, grumbling, showing a test where all its reagents are incorrect. I have no solution, said Motohama, crying. My parents burned my entire sacred hentai collection because they want me to enter the university. Don't they know that my future is in the adult film industry? Everyone looked at Motohama with disgust. Stop humiliating yourself, Motohama, please, he said very sadly. But then someone appears in my living room who is none other than Issei senpai, said Ravel, arriving with a paper approaching the brown-haired boy and his friends. A contract has arrived. At that point the three of us met with Ravel to find out. It's taking me a long time, Issei said very quietly. We haven't received many contracts since we started as an entourage. It's because Gremory senpai and Sona Kaichu have most of the contracts, said Motohama, adjusting his glasses. And it's more than obvious that they already have their contractors, Mitsuda said. Not to mention that nowadays many people are skeptical about the supernatural. And who is the client, if I may know? Issei said, to which Ravel agreed to know the name of the contractor. Her name is Mafayu Kurisu, said Ravel, to which the former perverts were surprised. Do you know who she is, guys? Yes, said Motohama. She is one of the best teachers Japan has. She has the reputation of having a very tough character with her students. So much so that all of his classes in which he taught received awards for good behavior and academic achievement, Mitsuda said. But the truth is, it was because his students were afraid that he would scold them for anything. Wow, she's like a military sergeant from what I see, said Ravel, surprised, imagining the aforementioned with military clothes. And well, who could make the contract? He said interestedly. Here's the problem, Ravel said, taking out a notebook with notes. The contract must be made today, but Ingvild and Asia have pending paperwork in the occultism club. Zenobia also has pending things in the student council she can't finish, and that's with Sona-san's entourage helping her, and I promised to help her. Well, Roswis has a mandatory meeting with the other teachers of the academy, and Benia, leaving school, will return to the Greek underworld to discuss matters with Orcus and will return before midnight. In short, I'm the only one available, said Issei, while Ravel nodded, handing him the contract envelope. Great, one more day of delay in my studies to enter the university. Ravel just smiled with resignation at my frustration, because she was also going to support me in the matter of my studies to enter the university, but the homework of the underworld consumes a lot of time in our lives. But I wanted my title of high-class devil, my own entourage, possibly my great harem, and to live for all eternity, right? These are those times when I want to drill my own mouth. I spend time at school. I had to move in a magic circle from the student council room to my employer's house. Mafayu Kurisu department. Issei was appearing in what appeared to be his employer's room. Did someone ask for the services of a demon? He said calmly, but then he sees that where he appeared was the synonym of a pigsty. But then he sees a girl with pink hair wearing reddish sportswear, but on her face, she had the expression of seeing something impossible. Exactly, dear readers, Mafayu Kurisu, a new contractor of the Hyoudou clan, was brain frozen at the appearance of Issei in her apartment. The pink-haired woman was very impressed while drops of sweat fell from her temples. You must be Mafayu Kurisu-san. I am Issei Hyoudou, your contracted demon, he said while looking calmly at the pink-haired girl, but she only thought of the first thing she should do in these cases. Calm down. Please calm down, he said out loud. How do you expect me to calm down if a boy appears in my apartment out of nowhere? Said Mafayu very hysterically while shaking Issei by the shoulders and shaking him like a rattle. This only happens in TV shows. In video games. In an marriage. If that's it. I'm on a TV show, shouted Mafayu with spiral eyes while holding Issei by the head. He was really scared with that look. This woman is scaring me, Issei said very nervously. Is this woman really impressed, or is she crazy? Said Drake while reading on his boosted gear. Does human beings really evolve? Calm down, please, I'll gladly explain everything to you, okay? Said Issei while Mafayu nodded and her breathing rate returned to normal. After Mafayu-san calmed down completely, I explained everything about the supernatural, the factions and mythologies, and to make her believe that I am a dragon even more, I showed her my wings and my boosted gear. The poor sensei almost foamed at the mouth when she saw them. When Drake spoke to her, I also told her about my reincarnation at the hands of Rias and all the problems that the Cows Brigade had caused in a summarized way, otherwise, it would take me an entire night to tell her everything. Mafayu-sensei was digesting everything I had told him. It's unheard of, I thought all this only existed in books. In movies, in video games. Said Mafayu very shocked. And to think this was a joke. Said the pink-haired girl showing a pamphlet. Hey, who gave it to you? He said, taking the pamphlet with the Sekiryuite seal. She was a girl with long dark purple hair and very pale skin. Who cosplayed as a Shinigami because she had a scythe and a white skull mask. Said Mafayu very thoughtfully. It had to have been Benia, I better not tell her she's a Grim Reaper or else she'd faint and cancel the contract. I said in my mind. But now that I've summoned you. Are you going to take my soul? Said Mafayu very scared. Please, I'm 30 years old and I have not met a good man for you to take my soul to hell please. If Roswas had met her before, they would have been very good friends. He said very uncomfortably in his mind while he saw the pink-haired girl's desperate face. No, in fact, that type of payments are no longer handled. Oh no. Said Mafayu sighing in relief. But we will discuss the payment but do not fear, I will not harm your integrity. Said Issei, to which Mafayu sighed. And well, how can I help you so that you summon me? Well. Said the pink-haired girl. There is something you can do. I noticed that she was very embarrassed by her facial expression. Well. You can, he said very forcedly. Aha. He said confused. Can you clean my entire apartment? Mafayu Kurisu said very embarrassed. Issei then looked around Kurisu's apartment. It was truly a pigsty, many garbage bags piled up in heaps, newspapers, fast food wrappers and cardboard boxes piled up as well, a small mountain of dirty dishes piled up in the sink, dirty clothes piled up on her bed. A complete mess. I'm not an expert in meteorology, but it looks like a tornado ripped through here. He said very impressed. Mafayu was even more embarrassed by that comment. As much as she's strict as she is careless, I said this in my mind. It even looks like a scene from my battles with Albion, although in mini scale. Said Drake. I was already here and I hadn't received any contracts in a long time since I was promoted to high-class devil. It was all or nothing. Well, let's get to work. Said Issei, taking off his school jacket, putting on an apron, pink, a face mask and a scarf on his head. I started to take out everything accumulated in the trash cans, everything weighed incredibly. Mafayu-san. Since when hasn't she cleaned her house? I said in my mind as I left all the trash in the containers. If Tannen saw what you do. He would take it into account as future training for your cause. Said Drake. After sorting through all her clothes, I had to make a titanic effort when I saw her lingerie. Ah, Mafayu is wearing this bra. No, out, idiotic impulse. He said, deleting a perverted image. Then the junk I had accumulated. Oh, this grease won't come off. He said, scrubbing a plate. Mafayu just looked away because she still felt ashamed of herself. Then mop and sweep until your apartment is as clean as possible. It took me all afternoon. I shouted exhausted. I fell exhausted on the clean floor but proud of my work. Thank you Issei-kun. Said Mafayu. And now? What do you want as payment for the contract? I was thinking about what a form of payment would be. I would tell him to let me touch his haha. But no, I promised him that I wouldn't attack his physical integrity or his dignity until I remembered something I talked about with my friends. I immediately stood up and looked my client in the eyes. Mafayu Kurisu. He said seriously. Hi. Said the pink-haired girl blushing a little because seeing the brown-haired boy's eyes made her heart skip a beat. The two looked into each other's eyes, the brown-haired one with a determination that made the pink-haired one nervous, who gulped because she had in mind what she would possibly ask him. We both inhaled air and said at the same time. Be my advisor and 2 of my friends for my university entrance exam. I won't give in, how indecent, eh? The pink-haired girl looked dumb at his answer. What did Mafayu-san think? He said mockingly. Nah. Nothing. The pink-haired girl tried to excuse herself, but the stuttering and the blush on her cheeks gave her away. Ahem. If it's as payment for the contract, I'll go ahead and accept it. Great. I shouted because it seemed my problems could start to be solved. Only with 2 conditions. Said Mafayu very seriously. The first is that you must not tell anyone that I am helping you and your friends with your university entrance exam, because I am taking a sabbatical year after my last job, and I do not want to serve more than 3 people in my department. Hi. He said, thinking that Mitsuda and Motohama would owe him a huge favor for this. And the second and most important. Well, his eyes became very cold. As with my other classes, I will demand commitment, discipline, but above all no perversions, because I am putting some of my time into your training for the university. Do we have a deal? Extending his hand. Without a doubt the narrowness. We have it, Mafayu-san. He said while the contract was taken as fulfilled. I'll see you tomorrow, Kurisu-san. No, Mafayu-sensei. He said while disappearing through a magic circle of the department. It was from then on that I began taking classes with Mafayu-sensei, and the next day I explained things to my friends. They both appreciated what I had done, as studying for university would soon be resolved. But the real challenge was not telling the girls, as they would start to suspect my absences in the afternoons. Fortunately, the only ones who knew about this were my parents, and I always reassured them so they wouldn't worry about any infidelity on my part. The faction leaders, with the exception of Yasaka, also knew about my advice. They saw it as a good idea and would support me in any way, especially preventing the girls from spying on me or following me to my destination with Mafayu-sensei. Always after school we went to Mafayu-sensei's apartment, and there we understood why she was a very upright and ruthless sensei. Unfortunately for my friends, they saw Mafayu-san in a perverted way. That day they felt like their souls were leaving them when Mafayu-san gave them triple the amount of algebra exercises. But thanks to that, we were able to understand the things we didn't understand. Little by little, we began to change our attitude. Once we got into our tutoring sessions with Mafayu, they practically started seeing us differently, as our grades began to rise alarmingly. They also listened to our conversations, which were no longer about Noper and hentai, but instead focused on questions and issues from past exams from different universities. Our new location was no longer behind the kendo girls' locker room, but now it was in the library. Of course, the aforementioned women began to miss being spied on, and especially the harassment they inflicted on us. Not only did our attitude change, but also our appearance changed little by little, which was like a bucket of water for the girls of the academy, and in my case with Ria's and the others who looked like wolves in heat when they saw my appearance. I still haven't forgotten that Roigun tried to put me to sleep using sleeping pills in my juice. End of Issei's POV. They all listened attentively to Issei's narrative. And that was the reason why I was absent for a long time, girls. Said the brunette somewhat uncomfortable. It was because of my preparation for the university. But why didn't you ask us for help, Issei? Ria said somewhat frustrated. Let's be honest girls, maybe you would help me, but at any moment you would take advantage to throw passion. Said Issei with a face of isn't it obvious? Besides you have your own problems at the university and in the factions, besides it is a problem that I wanted to solve by my own means and look at me, I am a few days away from presenting the exam for the university. They all stared at each other for a few moments, but then they smiled. Very well. Said Sona now very proud. I suggest you put all your effort into it, Issei, because I want my fiancé to be in the same university as me. You have our support, Issei-san. Said Asia very happy for the. I will also enter the university. Said Zenobia determinedly. I must not stay behind the future father of my children. Moo Zenobia. I'll also enter the university because of Darling. Said Irina with a pout. You can do it, my king. Said Benia proudly. Now. My future husband a college student. Jujuju, that excites me. Said Venelana, to which Dana, Kateria and other MILFs nodded flirtatiously. All the girls murmured in approval at what the brunette had said, but he only thanked Elohim and Big Red that this meeting had ended well. But that was something everyone had in mind. We won't let you win, Mafayu Kurisu. While in the Mafayu department, the pink-haired girl was packing her clothes in several suitcases, but that sent a chill down her spine. I feel a bad feeling about Issei-kun, said the pink-haired girl very determined. His life is in danger in that mansion, I can't leave him alone. Not while he's surrounded by those dangerous women. Why do I worry so much about him? No. It's a purely demonic and contracting relationship. Am I? No, indecent. The pink-haired girl, still confused by the brunette, finishes her luggage and goes to sleep her last night in her apartment without knowing that a routine life would change in many ways, but above all, in romantic and fun ways. The night had come to Kuo, and after a chaotic day for poor Issei by so many supernatural beauties who wanted to corrupt him and desecrate his virginity, thanks to Albeldo in his interview with Issei Hyoudou, revealed that his son still had no love interest and that a pink-haired lizard was after his Issei, they almost caused a state of emergency in Kuo. Issei, all exhausted, decided to forget this day by going to his bedroom wearing only his Tweety boxers that had gotten bigger and now looked like Pikachu's, obviously due to the muscle mass gained in his training. He could sleep safely without any risk of the girls getting surprised with him, especially the MILFs who have not had intimacy for so many years, and for fear that the collagen would be extracted from the poor brown-haired boy. Since thanks to two important figures in his life called Issei Hyoudou, Aka the favorite mother-in-law of the girls of the supernatural, she put a stop to the acts of seduction, and the other figure was Mafayu Kurisu, who was going to prevent one of her best students, that she had trained, from dying due to improper acts before the university exam arrived. "Ah. It's the only place where I can be safe and at peace," said Issei, covering himself with a sheet. "I just hope that tomorrow is calmer than today," said the brown-haired boy, sighing while his mind entered the kingdom of Morpheus. But in light of the last thing Issei said. And the reason is simple. The brown-haired boy, ignoring his surroundings, in the adjoining rooms were the supernatural girls, but divided into military assemblies in different rooms. All planning something to get attention or at least earn points with Issei, with Mickey and with Goru, because failing in their actions would be the end of a relationship with Issei. With the Gremory and Hyoudous enter. Rias, Asia, Akeno, Kaneko, Zenobia, Roswis, Ravel, Ingvald and Benia. In the bedroom that originally belonged to the Redeed, everything was up, the furniture was pushed up against the wall, including the large king-size bed that the Redeed never used to sleep in, and she couldn't help but smell the scent of her Issei in her bedroom. The girls of the clan that reincarnated our lucky or unlucky protagonist were sitting on velvet mattresses while in front of them, there was a blackboard with several photos of Issei in his daily life activities. Sleeping, studying, swimming, bathing, obviously mini Ascalon covered by steam, dressing casually and some things like Papacho. Stallion by birth. I'm all yours. Among other unholy things written by this pair of crazy entourage for the chestnut, planned their strategy to earn points with Issei Hyoudou, and incidentally, an internal competition to be the favorite of Issei, Mickey and Goru. 3 months. 3 months. Ria shouted, pacing back and forth as she inhaled the scent of Issei's old red shirt, as if it were pure oxygen. 3 months that I won't be able to sleep with my Issei. And this shirt is already losing its smell. Wani-sama, please calm down, said Asia, who was the least suitable to say that because she moved her legs like a chicken's fluttering, showing nervousness. Asia-chan is right, said Akeno with a feigned calmness, but inside she wanted to rack her brains for being away from her beloved brown-haired boy, while secretly she kept a photo of Issei taking a shower between her breasts to satisfy herself later. Now what we have to do is how to support Issei, said Zenobia, who seemed to be in a period of abstinence from her favorite sweet dragon. We must think of a way to show our love to Issei-senpai, said Kaneko, who was quickly eating a cake. We have an advantage in that sense, said Ravel, who was the one who showed the best mental fortitude in that meeting. We are the ones who know Issei-sama best and we know a lot about his tastes. Exactly, before losing his perversion he liked to see our breasts, said Ross. And that he sees Rias, Akeno, Zenobia, partly Ravel and Ingvald looking at that part of their bodies with quite a bit of pride, but with Kaneko, Asia and Benia, they only limited themselves to falling to their knees with a dark aura, leaving the ex-Valkyrie nervous. But I also noticed that they really like to see their buttocks, said Ross, trying to correct his mistake by telling a lie. At that, Asia, Kaneko and Benia, like Lazarus after his resurrection by Jesus Christ, stand up with their newly restored self-esteem and with a satisfied smile, giving themselves a slap. Lack of bust. This makes up for it, said Kaneko, proudly rubbing her left buttock. The other girls at that meeting only saw those 3 girls with a drop of sweat falling from their necks. Well. Now, as we were saying, we in particular have a great advantage in being the ones who have lived with Issei-sama the longest, said Ravel. We know many of his tastes. That's true, Ria said. We have lived more with Okasama, Issei Hyoudou, since we started living here. And we know a lot of things about Issei thanks to that, said Asia. Issei-sen really likes it when we dress up in very daring cosplays, said Asia, very red. Okay. And besides that we have mastered the Hyoudou family's flavor, said Kaneko confidently. Good arguments, food. Wait a minute, Ravel said as her head made a ding-dong sound while she wrote on what was left of the blackboard. Do you girls think the same as me? Just seeing what Ravel wrote, they couldn't help but form such a macabre smile and their eyes shone dangerously. The girls began to emanate a mixed aura where pink and black predominated. Hehehe. Issei, I assure you that tomorrow will be the best day of your life, said Ria, smiling with great malice as saliva began to spill lustfully. As a villain says. There are other ways to make contact with you, Issei. The Gremory Hyoudou team started laughing in the style of the cruel sisters of Ed and Eddie, completely ignoring that the Citri team, the Phoenix team, the Supernatural MILF team and the rest of the factions team had already plotted their plans to win Issei's heart, who also started laughing in such a macabre and outrageously funny way. You will be ours, my little dragon. Ha 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 ha. While in Issei's bedroom, he was sleeping, but he felt a lot of chills and outside. All he could hear were thunder and lightning worthy of a horror movie. Grandma. It all started when my dad took me to Hodders at the tender age of 5, Issei said in his sleep, seeming like he was having a psychological consultation with his grandmother. While inside the boosted gear, Drake was reading Freud's psychoanalysis and Gestalt psychology at such a fast speed. Or in this case the title psychological sadomasochism that the sanity of its wearer literally hangs by a thread. The next day. The sun was beginning to rise in Kuo City, to be exact in the suburbs, and the rays of said star were beginning to pass through the window of Issei's room, who was beginning to abandon his laziness because it was illuminating him and he was feeling hot. Damn son, Issei said yawning with his eyes half closed. And today I have a group study session. I should go take a bath. Issei said without noticing that a hand extended to him and gave him a towel. Thanks, huh? Issei said realizing who gave it to him and saw a surprise that he never thought he would have not even in his perverted days. Good morning, master. They said at the same time. Issei seen Riaz and Zenobia from the Yandere Hyoudou team, Nomura and Tomo from the Citri team, Burant and Villant from the Phoenix team. Grafia and Griselda Quarta from the MILF team and finally Kalwarner and Irina from the rest of the factions team dressed as maids. It is worth mentioning that each one wore their clothes such that some very formal as in the case of Grafia and Griselda, who did not want to show flesh before getting married as Elohim commands, and others a little daring where they revealed many parts of their body, as in the case of the girls from the Razor clan Tomo Kalwarner, and a little, Riaz and Zenobia, when dressing in a miniskirt that reveals their thighs. They all wore very friendly smiles. But it would be more believable if a nervous twitch in their eyes wasn't evident and a common thought was tormenting their minds. Those cheaters copied us. Well, they all came to the same conclusion last night. There is no better alternative to approach and show some interest and love for the brunette than to dress up as pretty maids and serve to show him that she can love him without needing to use seduction. But that would not be exempt from seeing some provocative poses that accidentally. Girls, what's going on? Issei said nervously. Good morning, Myas, said Riaz bending down while accidentally showing him her cleavage, blushing the brunette. Tell us, Issei. Do we look pretty? Said Zenobia turning around showing off her body while she turned around giving a good view of her violet panties. Issei saw how the now maids who were in his room posed to give a delight to the brown-haired boy's pupil. He thought that he wouldn't go half a day and he already felt a lot of heat in his body. Yes, they are very pretty, said Issei smiling at them. The maids present celebrated the compliment for their beloved chestnut. Thank you, darling, said Irina very happy and dreamy. Master, you must be ready for your meeting with Karisu-sensei. Kalwarner said with great annoyance at the mention of her. The bathroom is ready for use, said Burant while Zenobia took off his dirty boxers and her friend Villant quickly put a towel around his waist and a robe to cover his entire body. Well, you take a bath, we will select the clothing for today. Issei obeyed his friend Razor's pawn and decided to go to the hot springs calmly with a plush brown robe and slippers worthy of a millionaire man. I was surprised by this drag, said Issei. Seeing them like that. Well, not for me, said the bored red dragon. Your mother is testing your sweeties with the rule of no seduction and flirting because of your exam. They are desperate to at least become one of the main females in your harem. I have an hour and a half until my friends arrive. I suppose that with the help of the girls I will finish getting ready early. I can even review integral calculus. This morning everything will be fine, said Issei very optimistically. Partner. I wouldn't say that if I were you, said Drake while inside the boosted gear he prepared a chibi Drake, a divan-type chair and many cups of linden with passion flower for the nerves. While in Issei's bedroom, a competition was taking place as there were brown clothes on the floor. My Issei won't go with those hippie looks, Ria shouted while she hit her forehead against Nomura's while they stretched out a very striking colored shirt since that was the proposal of Sona Citri's team. We prefer Zenobia and her real girlfriend that Issei have a normal university student outfit. It's the best for these days of study. Ria-sama, said the little pawn of Sona Citri showing a gesture that she wasn't afraid of the busty mistress of her little dragon. She needs to wear fresh clothes for today. Nomura-san, you are right, said Irina showing a completely white outfit. That's why he will wear clothes worthy of the Lord. Ouch, shouted Riaz, Grafia, Nomura, Burant, Villant and Tomo. Irina, I told you not to wear those clothes. She will have a study session. She won't go to church as an altar boy, said Kalwarner, destroying the angel's outfit, making her furious. Pervert crow, Irina shouted, unsheathing Haudaclear and launching herself into the attack against Kalwarner. Our Issei must wear fashionable clothes that highlight his title as the Dragon of Domination, said Burant along with Villant. So he must wear clothes worthy of an American badass, said the brown-haired maid showing some jeans and a denim vest along with some biker boots and a black shirt. They are all wrong, Grafia shouted while she was accompanied by Griselda, who apparently were the most coordinated. Our Issei must wear clothing worthy of a gentleman, so we chose, and he must wear this formal clothing," said Serzich's ex-wife, showing a dark blue blazer with a white dress shirt, while Griselda showed some beige pants and brown shoes. But shoes. The clothes the MILF's team had chosen were disintegrated by Ria's destruction ball. Issei wouldn't wear those garbage clothes. Ria screamed like a madwoman while steam came out of her head. Being with Serafal-sama for so long made his stupidity stick to them. Ria-sama must update herself. Tomo shouted without knowing what she was saying or practically telling the truth. Her fashion sense is as old and obsolete as Graphia's age and Reselvum's old lesbian. At that, a vein appeared on Graphia's forehead, and a twitch in her left eye was noticeable, as she was being compared in age to someone she truly hated. "We insist that you must dress like a bad boy," Villain shouted, holding out his still intact outfit, but at that, the girls felt shivers run down their spines. "Listen, it seems like it suddenly got cold in here. Someone turned on the air conditioning," said Zenobia, also shivering from the cold. "Issei never had an air conditioning system in his bedroom," said Riaz, also shivering from the cold. "So this must be from," Irina said, while the Hyoudou Gremory team, Citri, Phoenix and the rest of the factions, their faces took on a purple hue. They began to tremble like a nervous chihuahua, and their eyes pointed to the origin of that cold. Ignoring the fact that the clothes they had chosen were now a block of ice, they saw a silver-haired maid with a smile that reflected anything but happiness. Or maybe it did, because she would be happy to unleash all her fury on the poor devils who had just put her in a bad mood. "So I'm an obsolete old woman, huh?" Graphia said while still maintaining that crazy smile. "Are you repeating that to me, Tomo Meguri?" The knight of the youngest of the Citri, seeing the strongest queen of the underworld in total fury, wanted to run away from there, but fear had her paralyzed. But then, the platinum-haired girl, turning her head in such a macabre way, her eyes pointed at the Redeed, who began to beg for her life. "And you," Graphia said with a distorted voice, pointing at Riaz, who screamed from how nervous she was. "You eradicated the beautiful outfit I had prepared for my Issei." Riaz and the others, with the exception of Griselda, who stepped aside to avoid being a victim of her companion, were hugging each other and trembling with cold, looking at Graphia with great terror. One-sama," said the Redeed, stuttering, although she didn't know if she was doing it because of cold or fear. "And did I hear that you stupidly said to Serafal-sama?" Graphia said, her grim smile widening, making Riaz even more nervous. "What would happen if, through my carelessness, I say this to Serafal-sama? Do you know what happened to the last person who insulted her to her face?" Riaz had now really screwed up. The last person who had insulted her was a noble from the underworld who insulted her. Now the poor devil is frozen in a sheet of ice in his bedroom, Han Solo style, and the Mao hasn't even deigned to unfreeze him. And don't even mention those who insult their Sotan, they never see the light of day again. "So I'll give you two options," said Graphia. "Either I tell Serafal and she punishes you, or you receive the punishment from me," said Graphia, cracking her knuckles. Riaz didn't know what to decide, but the only thing she could deduce was that whatever her decision was, she would end with broken bones and like a popsicle. But without realizing it, a camera that connected to a secret room was recording all the girls' movements and through screens, and a team that the FBI and CIA would envy, who monitored this, was Miki Hyoudou. Back with Issei. Our unfortunate protagonist was already in the locker room taking off his robe when, boom, the house shook a little, and a cold draft gave our beloved chestnut a shiver. "What are the girls doing?" Issei said, adjusting his towel a little nervously. "Whatever they're doing shouldn't worry you right now," said Drake, while the red dragon Chibi was sitting on the couch reading Elegies for Poor Devils. Note: the elegy is a lyrical composition that laments the death of a person or any other unfortunate event. Issei began to enter the hot springs of the Hyoudou mansion, which was now filled with more steam than usual, but then they see other silhouettes of women who were waiting for him, when suddenly the steam begins to dissipate, and Issei sees the next occupants in the hot springs. "Welcome, master," shouted the next ladies to serve Issei. The poor brunette bleeds a whole liter when he sees the other girls, and obviously his dragon instincts demanded that he make them his immediately. The girls knew the rules of their mother-in-law, and in order not to tempt their little dragon so much that by itself, little by little his lust was taking over his mind with such clothing under their towels. No. You still have to study at Issei University, control yourself," said the shy brown-haired boy in his mind, but an evil red dragon would take advantage of this, so he took out paper and pencil. Elegy of Virginity by Hyoudou Issei. And the virginity of the next dragon god. It ends up in the sad ending. Since it apparently did not last this year. Feminine charm made him lose his sanity. By Drag Y Gotch. While Issei was in his mental space trying to stop his hormones from taking sides right now in his current situation, he didn't realize that the girls had already dragged him to the hot springs. Ara seems to be holding back," said Akeno very flirtatiously, seeing her Hinata in a trance. Yufufu. She looked so innocent, Yusaka said, but at the moment of saying the last thing she stopped saying her idea. I think it's time to start scrubbing his body, said Gabriel, completely red and nervous, while with one hand he took his marked arms and began to scrub a sponge with soap. Oh my father. How strong this is, said the seraph, very nervous. Issei Naya. What abdomen? Said Kuroka, rubbing Issei's abdomen. This abdomen is hard and marked. I can grate cheese with it, said the black Nekomata, licking her lips and holding back the urge to make love with him. Issei-chan. Your hair is soft. Ah. Seraphil sighed with heart-shaped eyes while rubbing her head with shampoo. Awawawawa. Roswas, Mitlet Mira, Isabella and Uritsubasa stammered while their eyes were spiraling and their faces were completely reddened, as if they were cooked seafood. The latter rubbed everywhere, and without measuring their strength, they began to scratch Issei's skin, because seeing the body of their dream dragon was too much for their innocent minds. While he was sheltering in his mental space. What am I doing, DTRAIG? If I go out now, I'll end up marking one. Issei shouted while lying on the psychology couch. And do you know what will happen if Mafayu Kurisu sees the Sekirute mark on one of them? Said Drake, who enjoyed the suffering of his bear. Do you know what will happen if you break the main rule by which Mafayu Kurisu-sen is tutoring you? Stop giving me tutorials. Issei shouted as he started to cry in a comical way. I'm lost. Lost. Bua. The dragon watched his carrier cry like a baby while in his mind. What's happening in this poor fool's bedroom? Said Drake, visualizing the events in the bedroom and Issei. While in Issei's bedroom. What was once a normal bedroom for a prospective college student now looked like an ice age cave. All of Issei's furniture was under a thick layer of ice, also counting that the Citri team, Phoenix along with Kalwarner and Arena, fell under the freezing power, remaining like ice statues in a running position, which they did not achieve because of an angry Graphia who launched her demonic power at everything that moved. Graphia-sama. Let go of that. Zenovia shouted desperately as she watched the silver-haired girl, drawing strength from who knows where, lift Issei's frozen bed to slam it against a defeated Gremory team. Getting angry will make her older. Zenovia. Stop carrying her anymore. Ria shouted, grabbing her by the clothes while crying in despair. But at what Zenovia said, Graphia, as a sign that she would not tolerate another offense at her age, and before hitting the frozen bed, made a very characteristic scream. Graphia became Graphiazilla. Ria shouted. Zenovia, you idiot. While in Issei's intact closet, Griselda Corda, ignoring the entire apocalyptic scenario that occurred in Issei's bedroom, selected clothes in good condition with a smile on her face, completely ignoring that her legal protege was about to have a block of ice fall on her because of her common sense. Ara. I think this would be good for Issei-kun, said Griselda calmly and smiling while taking the clothes and connected an iron to leave her beloved's clothes impeccable while she began to iron. Crash. A small earthquake was felt, but that did not faze Griselda, who was doing the work of ironing her Issei's clothes, knowing that Graphia had slammed the frozen bed against the Gremory team. At that, Drake turns off the transmission. I hope Ria's Gremory and Zenovia Corda have medical insurance, said Drake, very nervous as he saw how Issei was still crying. Now let us see with the spa girls, said Drake as he saw that the poor brown-haired boy's poor skin was reddened from so much uncontrolled scrubbing and also included his scalp, and Issei was quite reddened because Seraphil couldn't control her desire to make Issei hers, but then he saw that Yusaka, Akeno and Kuroka had put liquid soap on their breasts and were beginning to rub them on Issei's body, and if that weren't enough, the others trying to lessen the impure desires of their heads. They licked Issei's body, causing a certain reaction in Issei's body, especially in a traitorous little friend who lives in his crotch. Red alert, partner. Drake shouted. Issei, seeing in Drake's projection that Mini Ascalon wanted to be unsheathed by any of the women who were giving him anything but a bath. Oh, I must not come back. Issei shouted, leaving his mental space. In the hot springs of the residence. All the girls who were doing Issei's bathroom service saw the erection that the brunette was suffering from, only the towel prevented Issei's little friend from seeing the girls. It's so big, said Kuroka, blushing a lot. Kiryu-san was very right. Yufufufu, said Akeno flirtatiously, licking her lips when she saw the erection. Now that she is in trance, what do you think of a special cleansing? Yusaka said, equally lustful as Akeno, licking her lips. Those present were in agreement, including an innocent but upset Gabriel, who was going to perform fellatio for the first time. Her mind was debating between what was right and what was wrong. Isabella the Tower Raiser was going to reveal Issei's little friend when ladies of the hot spring service, shouted a voice that identified Miki Hyoudou. How could you commit a fault with the non-education pact until the day of the exam? The punishment is that you will be the last to be taken for a date with Issei, and also for month you will clean the entire Hyoudou mansion. Without magic. At what the Haidu matriarch said, everyone froze like chalk. Their skin lost all color from shock. What? The girls from the hot springs shouted. Oh, do you want it to be 2 months of cleaning and not go out with my son for a year? Mickey said in a sweet voice, while the bathroom girls shook their heads and hands. Oh, I thought that. By the way, it seems like you're missing something. The girls looked around, but who should be among them all? Where is Issei-kun? Said Yuritsubasa. Anata escaped. Said Akeno smiling. Ara. I hope this month goes by quickly, and I also hope the university exam. Outside the hot springs, Issei was running from there. Arriving at the garden, he filled a bucket with cold water and poured it on his head to cool down the fever, and in a way it worked since it expelled steam, like incandescent metal when tempered in cold water. It hasn't even been half a day. And I'm already stressed. Said Issei. For Satan's sake, what's going to be with my nerves? Shouted Issei to the sky to vent his despair. Meanwhile, in a small moving van, Mafayu Kurisu was already on her way to the Haidu residence, and despite her grumpy face, inside she was really worried about Issei falling into the clutches of those women who wanted to overstep their star pupil. Wait for me, Haidu. I won't let anyone corrupt you. The pink-haired woman said mentally. But I'm doing this out of professionalism. It would be believable if only she hadn't blushed and was making gestures of denial. Haidu residence, 10 a.m. It hadn't been more than 2 hours since the test to win Issei's affection began. And the girls had managed to turn the situation upside down. Our poor brown-haired boy, who if he were wearing a cotton robe worthy of Don Corleone himself, would be walking around exhibiting his private parts in the mansion since, due to the whims of his girls, he hadn't even bathed properly because the girls who attended him in the mansion's hot springs had any kind of intentions that had nothing to do with cleaning his body. And also via drag, all the clothes in his closet and his entire bedroom were considered totally lost since, due to Graphia's tantrum, it now looked like the cave of the missing link. All that was missing was for a Yeti to come out of there. He had to bathe himself with cold water using the hose his mother uses for gardening. He used aromatic herbs from his mother's pots to disguise the smell a little, and to dry himself off he used the same robe that belongs to his father and that he is now wearing. Now the brown-haired boy was heading to his parents' room to borrow some of his father's clothes. Seriously, Drake, what did I do to deserve this? Said the brown-haired boy, entering his parents' room and heading to Goro Haidu's closet. I don't know. Could it be because you neglected them, and because of that, the jealousy and desire in them increased like the greed of King Midas when he touched everything in gold? Said Drake sarcastically, while in the sacred gear while he had a miniature skull in his claw that he ends up throwing it aside. A la Dolce Vita that you wanted, partner. You wanted so many women and now you don't know what to do. You're not helping at all, animal. Issei said, taking his dad's less serious outfit. Sometimes I wish I could go back in time and slap myself in the snout. Anything you want to repent of, my son. Drake said with solemnity, making a parody of a father in a church. Not for the moment. Said Issei, finishing dressing. Perfect. Because a moving truck arrived outside and I feel the heavy and dark vibe of your tutor. Said the red dragon simply. What? Issei shouted as he looked out the window of the alcove and saw that indeed a truck of said turn was in front of his house, and at the entrance, the unmistakable pink hair next to her serious face, Mafayu Kurisu wearing her reddish suit, was received by the patriarch of the Haidu. The movers began to carry the pink-haired sensei's things into the mansion, while her father welcomed her with his usual smile. But it was believed that she was comfortable because Mafayu, emanating her usual intimidating aura, made Issei's father sweat with fear, without owing her or fearing her. Oh no. Said Issei, putting his hands to his face. Look at the bright side, partner. Said Drake, starting to play solitaire with a deck of cards. At least there will be someone to watch over your chastity. Remember that. Without any effort, he managed to silence the Grimmery girl and important people like the Seraphim, the Cadre and the Mau Leviathan with his gaze. All that's left is for him to intimidate office. Better not say anything, friend. I better go to the dining room, there are 10 minutes left for breakfast. Said Issei, putting on some of his father's lotion, which was a gift from Azazel called 7 Males. I just expect a normal breakfast. But that normal breakfast that Issei craved so much was in the hands of people who should simply be banned from the kitchen. Haidu Mansion Kitchen. At the doors of the kitchen where Issei's mother, Miki Haidu, usually prepared with great care and joy, rich and delicious dishes that gave off what the Grimmery called the Haidu seasoning and flavor, a seasoning worthy of the gods according to them. Phew. The doors were giving off an aura similar to a black fire, auguring a bad omen for anyone who dared to approach there. But what was causing this? And it was the girls who were in charge of preparing breakfast for the boy of her dreams. Citri team. And now. Bring me cod liver extract, Ria. Said Sona while dressed in a costume worthy of a medieval witch. The bishop, very scared, gives her the ingredient and then Sona adds it to the cauldron and suddenly. Thumb. The column of green smoke emerged taking the shape of a heart but ended up taking the shape of a skull. So, Sona-sama. The only thing we're supposed to do is make some simple eggs with ham, chopped fruit with yogurt, coffee and fruit juice. Ria said fearfully. So many exotic ingredients weren't necessary. Ria, our breakfast must be the one that stands out in everything. Said Sona proudly while an octopus tentacle tried to get out of the cauldron, but Sona gave it a spoon to make it come back. Our Citri-style breakfast must have all the nutrients that our man must acquire for his study sessions. I think he's going to end up killing him. Ria said fearfully as she saw many bottles scattered around, most of which had a skull and crossbones and the legend biological risk. With Team Yandere Harem. Okay, what does Issei-san like for breakfast? Sashimi, steamed rice and vegetables, and miso soup with ginger. Asia said calmly as she took the lead. Did you girls bring the ingredients I asked for? It wasn't a big deal. Said Kaneko who was carrying a KO, Kaneko-chan, I told you to bring a yellowfin tuna, not a puff fish. Asia shouted, scandalized, seeing the enormous specimen that Kaneko was bringing and that seemed to have been freshly caught. We need someone who knows how to cut it and I don't dare slice it alive. Asia Argento, the vegetables are ready and for the fugu. I'll take care of it. Said Benia with a satisfied smile wielding her scythe, but it was not the same situation with Asia when she saw that the Grim Reaper had cut the vegetables. Also the tables, some dishes, some appliances and even part of the stove, since she dared to cut everything with her scythe instead of a simple knife. May the Lord protect me from these two brutes. Said Asia fainting while her soul left her body. With Team Phoenix. The Knight and Razor's two pawns were putting the finishing touches on Issei's breakfast as the twins, carrying a chainsaw, were cutting a chicken and a steak. Issei-sama will like well-chopped chicken. Said Meru, activating his chainsaw. A high-protein breakfast is worthy of a dragon and even more of our future husband. Said Kira activating her weapons in the same way. Both girls begin to grind the meat in a manner worthy of a horror movie. Girls, just don't go too far with said Carloman, but. Crash. The twins applied so much force that they not only cut the meat, but also the tables they were leaning on. Why don't I have any companions with common sense? Said Carloman hitting her head while shaking her head at the same time for her bad luck. Team, rest of the factions. The Falls and the Lowly of Infinity were making what seemed to be simple pancakes with melted butter, decorated with red fruit such as raspberries, strawberries. All normal. The special pancakes are ready. Afa said with her usual stoicism, but her eyes shining as if she had found a great treasure. Issei will like our special menu. Said Rainer eating a bit of melted butter on her cheek. Suddenly, Cadre Penemu springs into action, knowing that she is one of the most beautiful women in existence, but having one of the most perverse minds, she would do anything to have Issei, and that included sharing him with her team, so it was time to give the final touch to the hotcakes they made with her subordinate. Now it's time to put the special ingredient. Said Penemu while she put her hands in her breasts, and from them she took out a bottle with a reddish liquid. I got this from Lilith's Red Market, just a few drops will be enough, and our dragon will fall before us. Rainer and Office were impressed by their team leader's move, while Penemu only showed a smile that revealed how madly in love she was with Issei, while unconsciously spilling saliva while in her mind, she imagined romantic and risque scenes with the Sekirute. Rainer, the jam now. Said Penemu totally freaked out. Kai. Boss. The low-level foal complied with the order with a military salute and gave her a jar of strawberry jam. Penemu immediately pours the liquid out of the jar and. Fum. A reddish and pink smoke appeared, taking the shape of a heart, and then some evil laughter of women was heard. Remind me to give those Succubi the best and toughest fallen angels for their noble cooperation. Said Penemu with ample lust. She didn't care about violating the agreement of no coochie for 3 months, she wanted to be intimate with Issei, and she didn't care about taking his team by the tie. She wanted to unsheath Excalibur, and she would do it at all costs. With a MILF team. I'll make the fish soup, you sherry bottle crust. Roy Gunn shouted in a battle with Kateria and Tiamat to seize a pot to make said stew. No, I will do it, Shadakona Demon, lost sister of the clown. Shouted Tiamat trying to hit him with a wooden spoon. You are the least one to say that, you pompous dragon, Rachel Ziegler's mangy tick. Kateria shouted, using a frying pan as a shield and a fruit bowl as a helmet. The MILFs, being so competitive and in their eagerness to prepare something so simple, as they didn't have a good seasoning, they didn't even know how to heat a tortilla properly, due to their competition, they hadn't prepared anything. And how do these girls know about these characters? They discovered an important tool that changed their lives called the internet. All the noises from the kitchen could be heard throughout the mansion, as if it were a circus or a demonstration, a complete disaster was brewing in the Hyoudou kitchen. But the girls who were there didn't realize that a pink-haired sensei who was passing by saw the pandemonium they were creating in the kitchen. This is wrong. I must do something about it. said Mafai running to his room. If Hyoudou eats something prepared by those women, he will not only fail this year's exam, but also the ones for the next 3 years. Mafai would have the last word to save Issei from a possible attempt at gastronomic homicide. She knew he had cookbooks in all his writings and everything he collected. She also took into account that he didn't have a seasoning from the gods, but she would do her best so that Issei had as decent a breakfast as possible. For every dish they made with love. New poisons were developed, more potent and more deadly than the blood of Samuel. 11 a.m. Breakfast time. Dining room of the mansion. The aforementioned area of the mansion, sporting the most refined appearance possible since many of the rooms had a bit of the Grimoire influence at the time they were remodeled, giving them a high society look. At the long table where 25 people could easily sit without problems, in the main area Issei was already sitting, ready to eat his first meals, and in his hands, he already had a knife in his right hand and a fork in his left hand. We all know that breakfast is the most important meal, and there is nothing better than receiving it with the delicious smell of a well-made food. But it was not the same case with Issei, since he had a gesture that expected a terrible punishment, since his forehead was really purple with fear, sweat falling copiously, and his eyes could not take their eyes off the plate in front of him. As if not wanting to accept reality and wondering why he is like that. Well, his adorable and evil mother told him who was making breakfast, and with that it was enough for him to put on that expression of a prisoner sentenced to death. But without knowing that someone was trying hard to make him a healthy breakfast. My mother wants me dead. My mother wants me dead. Issei said, crying comically with a smile of resignation. Well, I think I'll make the will. Said Issei Drake dressed formally with glasses on his eyes in the sacred gear, taking a pen and a sheet of paper. Tell me who you leave the profits from that show that damaged my honor to. I even feel like you're making fun of the karma I'm suffering now. Issei said, still crying. Okay, everything to this beautiful dragon. Said Chibi Drake, writing everything down on a sheet of paper. You're not helping at all, Drake. There must be a way to survive this. Issei said. I remind you that one of the girls who makes you breakfast is Sona Citri. Said Drake. Do you have any knowledge of what she did to her father on his 500th birthday? The Citri girl made him a cake that looked more like a marble tombstone, and just a spoonful of that death delicacy was enough for Lord Citri to spend his birthday in the hospital with continuous stomach pumps. And what happened to that cake? Said Issei. Do you remember the last minions of the Cows Brigade? Said Drake. No, don't tell me what. Deducing Issei. If everyone ate that dessert from Sona Citri, even your brother-in-law Euclid Lucifuge. Said Drake while now watching a recording of how Graphia's brother was tortured with Sona Citri's dessert, and it was so much that the poor man died of stomach indigestion and poisoning. They should get rid of the murder weapon created with love by Sona Citri. He still remembers those days when Lord Citri was convalescing in the hospital because of Sona, when she gave him the approval that Issei is the perfect man for his daughter. He had a gastric tube in his nose and barely had the energy to say the words. I'd rather die 1,000 times at the hands of the enemy than from indigestion and food poisoning. Said Issei, taking the fetal position. Well, another topic to discuss. Said Drake on the psychological consultation couch, writing that on a notepad. I must escape. Issei shouted, locating the exit of the dining room, and was going to stop but. Where are you going, Issei? Said a voice that made his blood run cold, and when he turned his head a little he saw his sweet mother entering the dining room from the other entrance of the mansion's kitchen. Aren't you going to try your fiancé's delicacies? This. Issei said nervously, but he feels his mother's hand and with an aura that the older brunette gave off that even the gods would bend to, he says. Correction. Sit down and you'll try your fiancé's delicacies now. Said Mickey Hyoudou with such a terrifying smile. Issei obeying decides to sit and wait for his final moment. If he didn't want to die at the hands of his mother, it would be like dying from the delicacies of death that they were making him. Wait a minute. Die already. Said the brown-haired boy with a crazed look while his eyes fell on his mother who was pulling a gong. Yes, salvation. Issei shouted in his mind, but just when he was about to move. Girls, it's time to bring breakfast. Said Mickey playing the gong. No. Issei mentally lamented. You thought about it a lot, buddy. Said Drake disinterestedly while reading a book called How Not to Go Crazy when reading the Necronomicon. At that moment, the kitchen doors opened as a negative energy appeared inside, reflecting the chefs who were carrying a steel cart, transporting what they considered a complete breakfast for Issei. I saw the teams with different expressions. With Team Grimoire Hyoudou. Asia was the one who brought culinary delight for her beloved brown-haired boy, but her expression reflected discomfort and above all sadness. Oh, sir. If you eat this, it'll start a new faction war. Asia said, a vein popping out on her delicate forehead. Those brutes. They didn't follow simple instructions. In the kitchen. Kaneko and Benia were lying face down on the ground with a bump that was giving off smoke while it sprouted on their heads. The result of a blow that Asia gave them. Back in the dining room. From the Citri team. Sona was the one driving the food cart while it gave off a purple aura, while her. Hoo. This will make me gain a lot of points in being close to Issei. Said Sona with her glasses shining maliciously and a devilish smile. It is worth mentioning that her outfit was messy, her Filipina unbuttoned, and some purple stains were impregnated on it, including that the Citri clan heiress's glasses were cracked. But Sona's intimidatingly loving temperament put even Drake's scales on edge, who felt that danger was already coming. In the kitchen. Ryakusaka was tied with a rope around her entire body, unable to move and gagged, preventing her from speaking. Apparently she tried to prevent Sona from making another culinary aberration that would kill Issei, but unfortunately for her she didn't succeed, and her king completely immobilized her. Issei-kun, save yourself please, said a pitiful moan from Sona's bishop, lamenting the upcoming loss of the faction alliance. With the Phoenix team. The ones in charge of bringing the delicacy are the twins Nai and Lee who brought breakfast for Issei, but they shared a gesture that reflected discomfort because they had seen the dish that their companions made. Will this be edible? Both twins said in their minds because they saw the chefs on their team and they looked like they had made anything but a decent meal. With the MILF team. The person in charge of bringing this was Venelana Bale. She had an angry expression, but had to hide it with a forced smile with nervous tics in her eyebrows and several veins marking her forehead. Those stupid girls didn't do anything. Said Venelana. Because of the weather I had to apply the classic breakfast. In the kitchen. Like the Gremory team, the MILF team was unconscious in the kitchen, but in a different way. Roygun was lying on the stove, but with a pot on her head, while several mini Issei flew around her, Tiamat with her brain embedded in a wall and Kateria in the same way but buried in the floor like an ostrich, but she was conscious trying to get her head out of there. Since the former matriarch of the Gremory clan had given them a strong reprimand for having wasted time fighting uselessly, all because of their ridiculously inflated egos. With the team, the rest of the factions. The one in charge of bringing breakfast is Kalwerner. She had a look of fear and at the same time of excitement that she was sweating due to her state of lust because the chefs of her team revealed to her what they did and she could not avoid that scene. We are lost, but for having the powerful Excalibur inside me. Ah, said the fall in her lustful mind. Meanwhile, Mafai was preparing her dish in a mini kitchen, looking at a cookbook with admirable care. Back to the dining room. Issei could feel the evil energies in 3 of the 4 dishes that were ready to be served. Anguish ran through his veins. It was such a simple way of saying that terror was killing him that even Drake felt those bad vibes from the sacred gear. It's time to reveal the dishes. Said Mickey. The first to reveal it was Asia. Issei-san. I hope you like breakfast. Asia said very nervously, and then she reveals what seemed to be sashimi. Issei said intrigued. But why do I feel death lurking there? Said the Sekiryuite, while some evil laughter was heard. It looks normal. But Asia revealed everything she did, leaving everyone in shock. This is fugu sashimi. I hope Issei-san likes it. Said Asia bathed in sweat and her eyes spiraling, imagining the newspaper headlines where Issei dies poisoned and her along with Kaneko and Benya, wearing striped pajamas with a serial number. Next one. Said Mickey nervously. I hope you like it, Anata. Said Sona without losing that expression that terrified Issei so much. Ria and I made it with a lot of love. Revealing their dish, everyone swore they heard screams of horror, the souls in pain screaming for mercy. The total aberration that even Mickey herself was horrified. Bon appetit. Said Sona dreamily. You mean? A ticket to hell. Venelana said mentally and terrified. Team Phoenix. Show your dish. Mickey said nervously. Razor's twin farmhands revealed the dish. Which appeared to be an abstract work of wood art, as the chicken their companions were supposed to have prepared had traces of wood on it, but they weren't splinters. They were pieces of wood that had embedded themselves in the poor animal's flesh. What? What is this? Said both twins, terrified when they saw what they revealed. Miss Kalwerner, please. Said Mickey, her patience about to be completely lost. The blue-haired girl swallowed, revealing the plate to be normal pancakes. Or so she hoped, as they were beginning to give off an unreliable reddish essence that made her feel it. This is an aphrodisiac breakfast. The other participants said with their eyes rolled in their minds. Mickey, already losing patience, decides to end the introductions. Venelana-san please. Said the matriarch Hyoudou to the older brown-haired demon. Wanting someone to kill her out of shame for revealing what kind of dish she was. Cereal with milk. Everyone said except the brunette demon who immediately bowed. First of all, I apologize for what my teammates did. Said Venelana. For battle that my teammates did, they did nothing edible, and as time was already running out, and I had to resolve this quickly, and it was the only thing I could think of. Oh, okay. Said Mickey while a drop of sweat fell on her forehead. At least it's something edible. Mickey's smile was starting to twitch, as it seemed that her daughter's-in-law's culinary knowledge was similar to the resounding success of Disney's live-action The Little Mermaid films. In other words, a failure. Except for Vanillana, who at least had done something and had the guts to admit her team's failure, so she had a macabre idea to teach them a lesson. "Well, before my son eats your dishes, you will do a final test," said Mickey with a darkened look. "You will do a tasting of your own creations," sentenced Mickey, leaving the girls who presented said dishes as unfortunate souls, with the exception of Sona, who was sure that she had created something delicious. "So the first will be Asia-chan." The former nun gulped in fear at the thought of eating a piece of fugu, took some chopsticks and ate a thin layer of pufferfish meat without a second thought. Chomp. Asia ate that meat and began to savor it, waiting for the poison to take effect. "It's delicious," said Asia, putting her hand on her cheek, tasting the fine flavor of the fish. Everyone was amazed that Asia could have eaten the puffer fish and survived. "Asia-chan, for having made this magnificent dish I would give you a 10. Said Mickey, cheering Asia up. "But since it is a team effort, your teammates did terribly and you recreated a very dangerous dish, lower it to an 8. "Okay," Asia said, defeated and downcast with a purple aura. "But I suggest you take the fugu making course so you'll get a lot more points with me, Asia-chan," said Mickey, to which the blonde's eyes shone and she nodded fiercely. "Sona Citri, it's time to taste her dish," said Mickey, seeing the Citri heiress without concern take a spoon, take some of her eggs with ham, put the food in her mouth, and boom. The heiress of Citri fell into a trance as the spoon fell from her hand, her eyes turned white, and she immediately began to cry blood and from her nose. What is this disgusting thing?" she said in her mind, denying her creation. "It is not possible that I, the great heiress of the Citri clan, created this. So what I did to my father, my entourage and Issei, did it hurt them? I refuse, but she immediately fainted. A harsh reality check, but someone had to tell her," said Mickey, hoping that Sona's soul would fall into Hades's domain. "Mrs. Nye and Lee, it's your turn," said Mickey, throwing away the messy breakfast that Sona had made. "But I'm sorry for what my silly classmates did," said the terrified twins, because if they ate that chicken, they would have to eat it with its garnish of fresh wood included, and they didn't want to go to the hospital for that reason. "They did the most sensible thing possible," Mickey said to the twins. "That's why their grade is a clear 5. Razor's pawns nodded in resignation. The matriarch now saw the fallen woman, who was nervous as hell. "Miss Calwerner, please," said Mickey maliciously. The foal agrees to cut the pancakes with the adulterated jam and proceeds to take a bite when Calwerner moaned, because the aphrodisiac had an instant effect as the foal's body temperature began to increase alarmingly. Her skin was more than red, the tingling between her legs began to invade her, and a feeling of someone satisfying her began to sprout in her head. But the most dangerous thing, the heart-shaped eyes appeared in Calwerner, who immediately fixed on Issei. Licking her lips, she threw herself like a lioness at her prey, throwing the aphrodisiac breakfast. "Issei-kun. Take me, please." Issei was terrified by the falling maneuver, wanting to get away from there so as not to cause an erotic scene worthy of a hentai tenjishi, but Mickey intervened, taking a frying pan in her left hand, and with a movement worthy of a batter, made this sound. Clong. He sent her falling with tremendous force into a wall, impacting her and leaving her out of combat, but despite being knocked out, her body was still acting due to the aphrodisiac, since her skirt began to reveal a stain of fluids. That demonstration of how to hit a home run left the contestants terrified. They mustn't anger their mother-in-law, or they'd pay dearly for it. Phew, well. But this, they tried to drug my son with an aphrodisiac, and that will cost this team to be chosen last for a date with him," said Mickey, pointing what was said, and then she sees Vanillana, who got nervous. "Well, Vanillana-san, it is not necessary for you to taste that cereal with milk, and considering the honesty with what you told me, you get an 8 for that." The chestnut sighed with relief. It didn't turn out badly at all. It was tied with Asia Argento in terms of flavor and presentation. "Okay, say, you can enjoy the dishes of," Mickey said calmly, but spontaneous participant arriving, shouted a voice. Boom. The dining room doors slam open, revealing Mafayu-sensei, Mafayu-san, said the mother and son of the Hyoudou family when they saw the pink-haired sensei bringing a table with wheels and also a plate. The girls, still conscious after the tasting, were impressed to see that their rival to beat had just arrived at this moment and made a gesture that reflected that they were not happy that I had come to ruin this competition for them. "Hey, Mafayu-san, what do you have there?" Mickey said, very intrigued by the incognito dish she was presenting. Well, it's not a big deal," Mafayu said nervously. "But I made it for you to enjoy, Hyoudou-san," Mafayu said, revealing the dish that turned out to be -3 waffles. Said Issei, seeing said delicacy. "Can I try, sensei?" said Issei, seeing the pink-haired girl, who nodded nervously. Venelana and Asia opened their mouths in shock when they saw that Issei took the trouble to try the home-wrecking cat dish. The chestnut-haired boy took a waffle that was covered in maple syrup with his hand. Crunch. He took a big bite, savoring the flavor of what Mafayu had made, and then he opened his eyes and screamed. Delicious. Issei shouted, impressed. Miki took a piece of the waffle that her son had eaten and said. Sublime, Kurisu-san. Said Miki very happily while eating that. Venelana, Asia, Nai and Lee were jaws dropped, totally skeptical. They tore a Mafayu waffle in four and took a bite. Shoosum. The lightning bolt fell on them like a blow of reality, and they fell to their knees before the breakfast created by the pink-haired girl. They had a face of disbelief as they felt the delicious flavor of Mafayu's dishes invading every corner of their palate, as if a beautiful melody ran through and destroyed their senses in a paradisiacal Eden, and in their minds at the same time they said. We have been defeated. They said mentally upside down. The pink-haired girl, for her part, was very incredulous to know that her student and her mother had approved her breakfast. She was not very good at domestic matters, and it reflected how she had neglected her old apartment, but returning to reality she took on her usual expression and said. Hyoudou, I recommend you hurry up and have breakfast. In an hour, the others will come to our study session. They won't be long in coming to the mansion. Mafayu said hurriedly. Your father recommended the balcony that overlooks the pool for us to study. Okay. Thank you very much for the waffles, Mafayu-sensei. Said Issei, smiling at her. This gesture caused the pinkette's cheeks to turn the same color as her hair, while she opened her mouth a little, very surprised while her heart beat fast. Instinctively she turned around and put her left fist on her heart, feeling its beating quite strong and fast. You have less than an hour to finish your breakfast, Hyoudou. Said Mafayu, leaving quickly from the dining room, avoiding seeing his face. Excuse me. Said the sensei, leaving from there. Sensei. Issei said, very surprised by his tutor's behavior. This also caused the unhealthy jealousy of Asia, Venelana and Razor's pawn twins, who did not hesitate to make a gesture worthy of a Yandere. That bitch. Issei is ours. Says in her mind Venelana, Nai, Lee and surprisingly Asia, who starts to have episodes of comic anger. Issei, the girl's dishes are obviously edible. They will get cold, consume them and thank her. Said Miki, passing him both the fugu and the cereal with milk, while she saw where Issei's tutor had gone. Who would have thought? The Iron Sergeant of Japan ended up being conquered by my son. Said Miki mentally with a smile. Thanks for the food, Venelana-chan, Asia-chan. Said the brown-haired boy in the same way he did with Mafayu, making them blush furiously. And by the way, Nai-chan and Lee-chan, I will eagerly wait for your food, okay? Hi. Both twins said happily and blushing. This first half of the day for Issei ended quite well, considering his rather unconvincing expectations. But the winner of this challenge was obviously someone who hadn't planned on entering this romantic conflict. In Mafayu's room. The pink-haired girl was in bed hugging a pillow in the fetal position, while her face was a reddish color, since she still remembered that smile that Issei gave her. No. I can't fall in love with my student. Said Mafayu, shaking her head. But I don't understand why when I see him. My heart races and makes me feel safe. No. I don't understand. Oh, Yuruka-chan, Yuga-kun, Fumino-san, Ogata-san, Asumi-san, Akina-chan. I won't be able to see him like I did a long time ago. What should I do? Unintentionally, the bearer of the Red Emperor Dragon had begun to melt the cold heart of the Iron Sergeant. The love that she began to feel was like a reddish flame that slowly flooded her body. But this Mafayu would have a great obstacle to really know what she feels for the brown-haired man. A horde of supernatural women crazy with love, especially a Reed who would fight tooth and nail to be the favorite of Issei Hyoudou, the last bachelor of the underworld. That's it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. With that, take care.